Hello, everybody, and welcome. It's TCH Live, Monday night, 5/10/25 here on TCH Live. It's your host, Aaron McAvoy. Aaron, Ron. That's pretty much what I go by these days. But Aaron McAvoy, your host here tonight, and joining me tonight is a very special guest. Going to be the first time he's joined me here tonight. However, you guys have hung out with him in the past, just on Thursday, I guess, last week. So, Austin Lim hopping into the booth with me. How's it going tonight, buddy?
Good. Hey, everyone. How's it going? Excited to be back. I'm glad that I did well enough last time to get the invite back, but should be an exciting stream tonight for sure.
Heck yeah, looking forward to it. So we're getting things rocking and rolling here with a PLO bomb pot. And we got a very special guest here on the felt tonight as well. We got Lex O joining us. And we got some familiar faces out there as well. AJ, Lucrative, Big Daddy Chaz, all players who have graced the felt before. Of course, we got Slicer over here. JC making an appearance once again. We got Tillman down there in the 8 seat and Tommy over in the 10 seat. So 8-3 deuce, two-tone board here as we're getting everything scanned in. JC here going to go ahead and lead out with his top two pair for 150, and AJ with unscanned cards is going to check call from the small blind position.
Can't imagine JC's feeling that great about his hand right now. Pretty vulnerable.
Yeah, definitely wouldn't have been sad if he had just taken it down right there.
For sure.
Let's see. Looks like a 9 of hearts here on the turn. AJ going to continue checking. And JC here, though, yeah, he's going to continue betting this time full pot. I think this is the only way to go when the front door draws don't come in. Just see if you can put your opponent to the maximum test, get them to lay down a hand like two spades, maybe a combo draw. If they're just not feeling frisky, right? I mean, 500 to AJ with 2.3K in his stack, that's not an insignificant amount.
Right, and AJ can
speculate.
Be fairly confident that it's going in on the river no matter what here. Having seen JC play, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, AJ does go for the check call once again. 5 of hearts now on the end. Brings in the backdoor hearts. JC does not have a heart. AJ checks it over, and JC here is just going to check back. Yeah, two pair.
Yeah.
Going to be good enough. AJ likely just calling with the nut spades and, I don't know, maybe an overpair, something of that nature. But, yeah, 8s and 3s going to get the job done. JC will drag the first pot, and we'll move right along. All right, taking a look here in the chat. We got a lot of familiar faces joining us in here. We got Squiroo, Nick from Yuma. What's going on tonight, guys? Cashton, Peter Marshall, Eugene Green Skullbone. What's going on, guys? Welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us. Of course, if you are not subscribed to the channel yet, please do join us on the TCH Live team. Hit subscribe and go ahead and highlight the notification bell there. That will let you know every time TCH Live goes live, which is just about every night of the week. So plenty of poker live stream to get you through the week. All right, Big Daddy Chaz here going to just win. Is this correct?
Looks like it.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Folds all the way through, and he's just going to take it down right there. Getting the first walk of the evening here on just like hand number 2. So don't see that too often.
So what do you think of when you sit down at a table and there's the dynamic where sort of 3 people are sitting relatively deep, and there's a couple in the middle, and then a couple relatively shorter stacks?
Well, so, I mean, the main thing to take away from different stack sizes, I think, whether it's in a cash game or more importantly in a tournament, because there the number of blinds is going to be significantly different, right? It'll be like someone's got like 15 blinds or something, and that's going to make them play way different than someone who's just like only, quote unquote, only has 100 blinds or, you know, something like that. But you're definitely going to approach the shorter stacks in a very different way than you are the deeper stacks. Like, you can get away with raising the deeper stacks much lighter in, say, like a 3-bet or 4-bet spot pre, just because there's so much more playability. Whereas if you are facing, let's say, like an early or early middle position raise from a player who's only starting the hand with like 100 blinds, and you go and you 3-bet them to like, 12 blinds or, maybe just 9 or 10 sort of standard blinds, and then they come back at you with a 4-bet, right? Like, you are just going to be put in a place where it's like, now you can only play your most premium hands because they're so short. Like, a lot of the time, all the chips are going to go in, and you really don't want to be doing, some like King 10 offsuit type shit, just like messing around against a shorter stack where you can definitely get away with that against a deeper one.
Right. Looks like it's 5, 10, 20, 40 here, and AJ's raising the button with King Queen off.
JC here into the straddle. This is a large raise. This is not a size that you would normally feel comfortable calling a hand as weak as ace-8 off, but it is a button open, and oftentimes when someone does make it this large from the button, when they're already playing with position, it almost raises your eyebrows a little bit to be like, how light are you going here, right? Like, you could have something like 7-4 suited and just be like, I'll make it 200 and hope that you just fold, right?
Right.
So JC is going to make the call. Comes queen high. AJ picks up top pair. Down bets slightly to 175. And JC here with the ace high and backdoor diamonds. Also backdoor straight draw with the 8 as well. Definitely don't think he can go anywhere just yet. Is going to make the call. And off to a turn we go. AJ feeling pretty good here so far. 3 of clubs here on the turn. Another card that does sort of interact with JC's flatting range from the straddle. However, a lot of those sort of really small cards will go for the check raise as well. So JC going to check it over. AJ has a couple of options here. I think the most straightforward one is just to continue betting somewhere to the tune of 2/3 pot. Let's see if he does go for somewhere around 450. And maybe 450.
Just about that.
Yeah, on the nose. So JC now is going to have to
let go there.
Get out of the way. Yeah, if he had picked up a 5, maybe he could continue, but 3 doesn't interact with his hand well enough. Got ourselves a little poll here in the chat. Have you hit the like button yet? If you have not, rear back with the force of 1,000 suns and strike that like button if you would. It helps us out. Helps us get this program out to the many fine folks on the internet that are not currently watching. So let's see. So Austin, have you gotten in on this TCHLive loyalty points extravaganza? Do you have any of these loyalty points?
I don't know. How do I see? How does it work?
Well, first you're going to start off by copying me. So do exclamation point points in the chat. Just type that and enter it, and then that'll let you know how many points you have. I'm going to guess if you don't know, you probably have 1 or something, but we'll see. Lex O here has 2 kings. He's going to 3-bet to 275 over the initial open from Tommy. This is early position open here from Tommy, so generally going to have a stronger range. Lexo, the effective stack here, starting with just about 3K, and Tommy is going to go for the call out of position.
Are you a fan of Lexo's vlog? Have you seen any of it?
I think I've probably seen maybe 1 or 2, but nothing recent, and certainly not a connoisseur of Lexo's content. But I do know that he puts out a lot of good stuff, and a lot of people like him. So
I think his stuff is great. So a little plug for my man Lexo.
Heck yeah, man. Tommy here going to go for the check fold. Ace high here. I mean, I think it's fine in a 3-bet pot. You're out of position. Ace jack is going to be good a lot of the time. Maybe not a lot, but like enough of the time that you probably should continue to a small bet. But yeah, I think it's also fine to just get out of there. It's like you're going to fold so many turns. It's almost like you're just lighting that 275 or whatever on fire. So I think it's just fine. I will be right back. Just had to close the door there. All right. Nick from Yuma saying pocket kings is a set mine. Hell yeah, dude. You're always set mining when you got a pocket pair. All right. On to hand number 5. Lucrative's turn to pick up a big pair here. And JC here in the big blind facing a cutoff open. I think this is a pretty standard 3-betting spot. Yeah, you can call as well. Just a fold, of course, out of the question. Lucrative, oh, no, this actually makes a lot of sense. Lucrative is playing the shortest stack at the table, 1.8K behind. And so, yeah, going for the 3-bet, that actually would have run JC into this sort of spot that we were just talking about, where now if Lucrative decides to go for the 4-bet or even just like piles it all in, you know, you've just torched your money. So
right.
May as well see a flop with the ace-10. Does flop the best of it.
Went from plowing the fields to playing poker. That was my career trajectory.
And it looks like it checked around. Not sure what the turn is, but it's on the...
Yeah, checks through to an 8 of diamonds.
Lucrative with the queen of diamonds here.
JC bets just a little under half pot. Lucrative with the mandatory call there. And JC will back into the 10 high straight to improve from top pair. Now he's going to check it over. So bets the turn, checks the river, and Lucrative here. Is he turning queens into a bluff, or is this a small, thin value bet? This is a small, thin value bet trying to get ever so slightly worse to call, but I don't really know what there is that's worse that calls.
Targeting pretty thin there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even think like king 9 doesn't bet the turn unless it's got exactly the king of diamonds. I mean, there's just so few combos of hands. I don't know. I think
most jacks 3-bets most of the time, so.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just,
Maybe
I don't know, one of those spots where sometimes you just kind of pick a size that doesn't necessarily make the most sense, but it's like a merged range, right? Where it's like you've got queens, you're probably going to win some portion of the time, but maybe you could get worse hand to call or a better hand to fold every once in a while. But honestly, I don't think like any ace can even fold, right? Like ace deuce.
Especially not to that sizing, right?
Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe just not the bet size to accomplish what was being done there. But
tough spot for him too. Picked up a premium in late position. And
all right, folds over to AJ. He's going to make the initial open ace-king to 75. Big Daddy Chaz and Tillman going to find their way to a flop. Tillman first act. Going to go ahead and check. We are waiting to get the board scanned in.
Ace 5-8. Pretty good flop for AJ here.
Yeah, not bad. Not bad. AJ is going to bet 125 here. Just about half pot and 2 quick folds. Tillman?
Tillman just snap folds the ace-10. That's an interesting fold, because if you're going to fold that board, then what are you hoping for with ace-10?
Yeah, I mean, I almost want to believe that it was his neighbor's card that scanned over his spot, but that's not usually the spot that has the crosstalk, because we don't actually have anybody in the 9 seat right now. It's usually the 9-10 seat and the 1-2 where you get that crosstalk, because like the card that's being pitched to the 2 seat or whatever will sort of scan on your neighbor's scanner. But yeah, I guess that's probably just what he folded, and maybe just the diamonds, whatever, just the texture, just didn't like it. But yeah, I agree with you that you thought top pair, you shouldn't be folding to a single bet.
Tillman and AJ have played a lot of hours together, though, so And maybe Tillman has some soul read on AJ or something like that.
There you
But
go.
Tillman's going to 3-bet his queens to 300 here.
Yeah, you don't need a soul read when you've got 2 queens.
Pierre just calls here.
Yeah, Pierre
Just
coming in.
Probably going to price the other 2 guys in here, right? So probably 4 ways to this flop.
Yeah, absolutely. And Pierre, of course, taking his seat there in the number 2 spot. Just coming in a few minutes late, but here we are, 4 ways to this flop.
What kind of hands would you expect Pierre to have here, having opened and then
Opening and then calling, that's going to be
2 people behind?
Yeah, a lot of middling suited connectors all the way up to, you know, queen jack suited. Things like that are going to benefit a lot from just seeing a flop, not going for a 4-bet squeeze. Your middling pocket pairs, of course, all the way up to 10s can call. Although 10s may be a hand that's going to be more inclined to go for the 4-bet. As it stands, we get a 6-high board here, rainbow. Everybody feeling pretty good about this one, I would imagine. In fact, AJ is going to lead out at this for 450.
I wonder if Tillman checked with the intention of check shoving.
Oh, that's right.
It looks
Tillman's
like
in the small blind. Okay.
Yeah, actually, wait. I'm confused as to why. There we go. Tillman with the... Looks like Tillman checked the check shove there. And everybody's going to lay it down.
Yeah, 2 quick folds there. AJ recognizing that Tillman doesn't do this sort of thing unless he's nutted. And does just give it up there. I mean,
Tillman's going to pick up a pretty nice pot.
Yeah. Yeah, and like you said, some of these players have a lot of experience with each other. Certainly AJ and Tillman, more regular faces at the 2-5 game that we play on a fairly regular basis together. And so, yeah, those guys are going to have more of a feel for each other's play than perhaps, you know, Big Daddy Chaz and Slicer and JC, et cetera, who are more frequent players at the a little bit higher stakes. All right, did you check your points? Do you have any?
I have 0.
You have 0. All right, well, we won't be doing any side betting, but I am going to do some gambling just for fun.
All right, good luck. I'll sweat.
Thank you. We're gonna fire off the 100 here, and we'll see if David Pratt joins me here in the chat at some point. We can increase our wagers. I think I'm up $20 on him at this point. So.
All right.
Nice. All right, rolling good. Off to a good start here as we are going to go 3 ways to a flop here. Tillman just going to flat the ace-queen offsuit on the button, facing an early position open and a next to act call.
Gonna flop the best of it.
Oh no, David Pratt is in the chat. Dang it, I didn't see him, so I just fired away. Sorry, buddy.
Yeah, I'm gonna bomb again. This is where you test it right here. Yeah, that highbrow humor is too much. It's a clever joke. I just it was the word choice for him.
So we're going to go ahead bet small. It looks like he's just going to take this down. Nobody has much of anything. And Tillman off to a nice start tonight.
Absolutely
He's
right.
been crushing the stream recently.
Kevin and Sarah Grodick, hey, thanks, man. Appreciate it very much. Welcome.
It's always like target the most intelligent.
Well, David, since you already know what I rolled, we could do. We could do. Yeah. We'll just wait till 7:26. That's fine. Otherwise, I was going to say we could try to do some sort of weird. I could give you odds or something against my 76, but let's see how you do here. Ooh, 67. At least you won. Pad those points. Pad the point roll a little bit, and then yeah, we'll go blasting at 7:27.
When I started playing poker, like everything's new, everything's like.
All right, on to hand number 9 here. Folds around to Tillman in the cutoff, and he's got a big pair once again. A couple of ladies again. Lex O making a tight fold, ace-4 suited. Wasn't a small blind, so one of those spots where you don't really love your position, and a hand like ace-4 doesn't play particularly well. However, it is suited, and oftentimes you're going to want to mix that into your calling and raising range. Would have flopped the best of it. but it is not to be. AJ going to go for the check call here for a bet of 100, or just get out of the way. Tillman, yeah, usually just doesn't get too far out of line. So AJ says, yeah, I got a gutter, but it's just probably not coming. So I'm just going to fold. Cheers. All right, so Tillman gets queens again and wins. TLDR for Austin, who stepped out for just a second. And, yeah.
Easy game, huh?
Easy game. It is really nice when you sit down and play this game and you just get cards and win, right? Like, man, when that happens, it's just great.
It's really fun. I think the highs and the lows are what make poker such a great game, right? And the reason that the highs are sometimes you just sit down and get smashed by the deck and you win every hand. And
yeah. And your opponent just always has second best, you
right.
know,
And
like a good
like
hand, but not
lose.
the nuts, and you just smash
Right.
them. Yeah. Yep.
And then
Right.
I'm
So
sure
3
everybody
ways.
who's played has been the other side of that coin as well. Just you keep getting good hands, but they're just the second best hand. Always,
Yeah.
right? And
Oh God, that is the stone worst, right? It's like you'd rather just get nothing so that you don't lose
Right.
big
Of
pots.
course.
Lucrative here, going to go ahead and flop the best draw. Has 2 spades to go with the spades on board. Is going to lead up for 125 here, as he was the pre-flop aggressor. Tommy going to call in position with the backdoor spades and 2
Oh.
overs. And
What a card.
yeah, first spade right there on the turn gives Lucrative the king high flush. Tommy still drawing live to another spade. And Lucrative
What a lead.
checks. Yeah, he makes the
Oh, I'm
flush
sorry.
and checks it over, and Tommy's like, I have the nut blocker, so I'm just going to push you off of this and win with ace high. And Lucrative says, not so fast. Just calls. Leaves himself 705 with the pot up to 1.1. And now, is he going to donk jam it in? He is.
So we went to an open mic.
Yeah, I almost feel like the check jam on the turn makes a little bit more sense.
I agree with you.
Because you have so little chips behind that, like, let's say that your opponent did somehow turn top pair with a queen, and then the river's another spade or a 7, right, or something, and then you donk jam in, they're just going to be like, wait a minute, I don't know if this queen's any good. You might get a queen to fold by making that play, whereas if you check jam it on the turn, a queen is calling you every time.
Of course.
Now I'm packing heat.
Given the size of the jam as well, I mean, I think you're going to get some calls from exactly what Tommy had there as well, which is great for you, right?
Oh.
I think.
For sure.
And then when the river comes up blank, he's just going to fold those hands as well. So
Yep.
I think there's plenty of... You're going to get called by so much, right? And
Yeah.
then just jam that turn in, I think.
Yeah, and that was just a product of stack size more than anything right there. I mean, I think there are other justifications just in terms of game flow, like, or the way that the game was being played on that hand in particular, right? Like, just bet the flop, check, let your opponent bet, and then check jam, like, right? I mean, it's sort of cool. It's creative. It's, you know, and also a little bit like eyebrow raisy of like, wait, what the hell's going on? If his opponent did have a queen or something.
Right.
You know, pretty cool. What could have been, but still does win the hand nonetheless.
Takes down a nice hand regardless.
JC here with a lovely middling suited connector. Tommy with a dominating pair of spades. Spades? Diamonds. Those are diamonds. I was still thinking about the spades from last hand. All right, JC going to check this king high flop. Tommy will check back and drill second pair on the turn. And JC sort of taking this diamond combo and whiffing that board so completely that he was ready to just sort of give it up. But when his opponent checks back, he says, I guess maybe you have something equally bad, or maybe like a small pair that you're going to fold now. The answer is none of those things.
And Tommy gets there. Not that he needed to.
Yeah. And just improves
But
to
I
the
think
king high
JC
straight.
has a pretty easy give up here.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's always tough, right? It's like this: you flop a board that's just super favorable, but you don't want to range bet. And so you're like, all right, this is definitely a combo to just shut down and give up. But then your opponent checks back where they're going to bet like everything except for like 9-8 or something. You know, they're just like incentivized to bet. And so you just take a stab and they call. You're like, all right, fine. I lose. Like, honestly, I think Queen Jack was supposed to bet there on the flop, right? Just, you know, you've got a gut shot and Queen high.
Yeah.
And your opponent just checked to you. Like, take a stab, see what happens.
Yeah, it's like me being completely delusional.
Anyways, onwards and upwards. We're on to the next one. Mad Benjamin says he's only here to slam that like button. Well, please do. We appreciate
Thanks,
you.
Matt.
A few minutes to decode it.
Got Lottie in the chat.
Oh, yeah, we do.
Hey, Lottie.
Mr. William Lottie. Yeah, if anybody new is joining us here and is not yet subscribed to the channel, please do. Just hit that subscribe button. That'll make sure that you are in the loop for all of our upcoming streams, which we have just about every night of the week. So,
Lexo opens up his suited ace and just runs straight into it. So AJ here has got an interesting decision here, right? Ace king on the button against the 3-bet.
I think this is going to be pretty standard. I guess it's stack size that makes it awkward for him, right?
I didn't even notice that, but yeah, it does, huh?
So, I mean,
Given the
yeah,
stack
this,
size,
like this being a hijack open and a cutoff 3-bet, like ace king is slam dunk 4-bet.
Right.
But for your size, yeah, you pretty much just have to rip it in, which he is going to.
Right.
It's going to say you could do like a min click type thing, right? Like balance it with your aces and your kings where it's like, yeah, I don't want to jam and get all my customers to fold.
Sure.
What's my only other size? A min click. So you could do it with ace king, but you have to be prepared to play it as though you have aces and kings, right? And it can be tough for some players to sort of feel inclined to do that.
Right.
In any case, I think the jam is perfectly fine as well. If you can just pick up all of that dead money, then so be it. Corey Maddox saying that he played AJ a couple weeks ago. Super solid player. Yeah, AJ is a great player, great guy, a lot of fun to sort of banter with at the table. He and I were getting whacked the other day. We were seated in the 1 and 2 seats, and we just kept getting smashed. And so, yeah, it was pretty much me and AJ just sort of lamenting our misfortunes together. So that was kind of funny.
All right, Lucrative going to wake up with a pretty hand on the button. Ace 10 of diamonds. Chaz with fours for the second time tonight. Set line. Can't miss it. Twice in a row, can he?
I mean, he's got 2 4s. He's got 44% equity. It's got to come 4, right? What? 10? Doesn't make sense. Not actually a board that Big Daddy Chaz is going to give up on, though.
Right.
You definitely can't go folding pairs on a board like this.
Probably going to peel one here, I'd imagine. Nothing to do but call. Can't imagine that. You're going to be one to be raising this spot very often.
Yeah, you definitely can take some small pairs and turn them into raises, but you'd probably rather do things like 7-8s, 8-9s, and your 7-9s of the world, turn those into your check raise bluffs, rather than your pairs, which are just going to be good a lot of the time. You don't need to bloat the pot unnecessarily. You can just hope to get to showdown with it, but it does go for the check fold on the turn, and that'll be the end of that one.
Did I know the person that asked you that? Obviously not. I mean, but like.
All right, 5-10, and I guess maybe we don't have a mandatory straddle on, or Tillman forgot. No mandatory straddle. Okay, so it's not a mandatory straddle tonight. We have seen a lot of 20s and some 40s even, but okay, no mandatory. Folds over and around to AJ, who is going to come in for an open 250. And Lucrative going to get a little splashy here. Going to make a flat call with the 5 deuce. Maybe he's got
some evil intentions.
yeah, maybe this is a favorite hand or something like that, a favorite combo. Some players have that, right? We've got Jay Wynn with the 4-3 and Jay Stack with the 6-3. You know, everybody's got their little thing that they do. So
Mr. David Pratt with the 4 deuce.
that's right.
Never loses.
That's right. Lucrative,
And
though,
that's-
as is usually the case with the 5 deuce. You're going to flop 3 overs and just have to fold.
That might have been a board where he could have gotten sort of spicy with backdoor spades. Slightly favors maybe his calling range there, but decides to just give it up, which seems fine as well. Have you played with Lucrative at all?
I don't think so.
I've been
feel
seeing
like
him more and more here, which is nice. He's a fun guy to play with.
Okay, cool.
Nice guy and not afraid to pounce if he senses any sort of weakness.
Okay, well, no weakness sensed there. Just has
Right.
to let the 5
The 5
deuce
deuce
go
go.
by the wayside. All right, that is the no-straddle corner
Ooh.
over there.
Oh, no 7 deuce game going, I guess.
And
Lex
no
just
deuce
gonna
deuce game
fold
going for
deuces.
Lexo.
Interesting.
So I think that there's nothing wrong with folding the small pairs up front if you are planning to play a more conservative, tight, aggressive game.
Sure, I
It's
think
definitely
there's nothing
fine.
wrong with that, yeah.
But
Especially
I
because he's one of the shorter guys, right? Maybe
Sure.
feels that he doesn't have the implied odds when he pops his side kind of deal, so. But I probably wouldn't fold deuces there.
yeah, I feel like especially on a unstraddled pot, right?
Right.
Like it doesn't even cost you that much to open.
Right.
You know, I mean,
sure.
in relation to your stack size. So
For sure.
if you're gonna open deuces, that's the time to do it, rather than be like, okay, cool, I started the hand with you know, 150 bigs instead of what he had, which was 300 bigs. You know, so
Right.
anyways.
AJ picks up another premium. And I like the 3-bet from Chaz if you're going to play this hand.
Yeah, I think this can go 2 ways. It is an early position open, so 3-betting it can get you into some stickier spots with larger pots.
Sure.
Whereas if you just flat it, then yes, you're still going to be behind all of your opponent's better aces, but you haven't narrowed their range to that. They're still going to have a ton of middling connectors and things of that sense, of that strength. So the ace-6 can play a little bit better. I mean, as it stands, he's just going to outflop AJ and bet 150.
Bet and call.
AJ going to check in. Chaz now can definitely go for a check back here. Keep the pot manageable, hope for a sort of bricky river. And I wouldn't call that a brick, but when his opponent checks, he's going to be perfectly fine just getting to showdown, which he does.
And he's going to be good a lot there, I think. Right.
Yeah.
That's why I play tennis.
And
And then you go out for whatever.
that's why Ace King's a terrible hand. Drawing hand, right?
That's right. A strong drawing hand at that, but yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe if AJ, well, certainly if AJ plays that as a 4-bet pre, which I think is definitely the standard, then he's going to win that hand.
Right.
Either pre-flop or probably post-flop, just because, well, I mean, I guess it all depends on the gumption and how hard you put your foot on the accelerator, but
Sure.
certainly if I 4-bet that hand there, I'm going to just be like, I just have to get all my chips in, probably on the turn after a small bet on the flop, and then just hope my opponent doesn't have anything.
Right.
And it
Think
probably
like-
would have worked.
Yeah, like we talked about before, though, with AJ's stack, maybe he's just decided that he doesn't really want to be 4-betting. But I don't know if that's what he's thinking. Or
Yeah, I don't know. I think with a hand as strong as Ace-King suited, though.
right, I agree with you.
Although, you know, it's nice to have some of those very strong hands in your flatting range when you're out of position, because you can just navigate pots to later streets much more confidently.
Right.
Because if you make a pair, like, you're going to have top pair, top kickers. Like, it's going to be great.
Got a spicy little 3-bet here from JC in the cutoff. Gonna flop the best of it.
Yeah, and I actually like this 3-bet almost a little bit better than the ace-6 on the previous hand, right? It's like 9-7 benefits a lot from getting things like king-10 off to fold, you know,
Sure.
stuff like that. whereas the ace-6 suited was just going to play a little bit better in position. But, I mean, honestly, either hand could go either way in both spots, and Big Daddy Chaz is just going to have to check fold here with the ace-queen. Interesting there on the king-high board with the 2 small cards around it. Ace-queen actually can play as a pretty effective bluff hand, but not going to go for it. You know, most people will think of like, you know, if you manage to find your way into that spot with like 6-8 suited and you flop the up and down straight draw, like, okay, you could go for a check raise with that hand, or maybe even something like an ace-5, right? Bottom pair with an ace blocker going for a check raise with that hand. But ace-queen, because you block your opponent's strongest top pairs,
Right.
and have backdoor outs and like just good pair outs, right? Sometimes just your ace is going to be live. Yeah, taking that one and turning it into a check raise. But anyways, I can go off into the weeds on just about every hand trying to talk about what you could or could not do.
All right. Chaz picks up 4s again. One of his outs is 10. So this seems like it'll probably be the time.
For him to hit us up?
Yeah, I'm thinking. Can I gamble on that?
I will bet you. Knowing that one of the 4s is gone, I'll give you 15 to 1.
I can already see the flop, unfortunately.
Oh no, you're right. Damn. It wasn't scanned in. I wasn't paying enough attention. I was going to try to give you 15 to 1 and see if I could take a dollar off
15
you.
to 1. Wow.
Well, yeah.
It's not very good.
I mean, if you're like 8-9 to 1 to flop a set when 2 of your cards are live, then presumably like 15 to 1 is in the right ballpark. I think it would have been a fair wager.
Yeah, probably. Anyways, back to the hand. Looks like it was just lived around here, right? And
Yeah, 10 high board, lucrative here
lucrative with top pair, and he didn't bet the flop, or we paused. Might be having some technical difficulties here. Lexo with top pair as well.
Yeah, Lexo, though, has a very natural check, as he was the player in the small blind.
Go ahead and bet 70.
Oh, okay. Confusing. Oh, this was a limped pot pre-flop.
Right, it
Okay.
was limp pot. I think
Wow, that top-down view is very much in focus.
so. I feel like sometimes this is the problem with.
That top-down. Oh, okay. All right, we get that fixed here shortly. Sorry, you were going to say?
This is sort of the problem with Lexo's spot here. It's a really difficult spot to play, I think, because given how wide it is and given how multi-way it is, it's just you're not going to see any turns that are super fun. But I think you still probably have to bet. On the
Yeah,
flop.
limped pot.
It's
with
just really
the
difficult to
top pair.
play.
Yeah, no, it's not easy by any means, but I think definitely betting the flop is the right play. Honestly, I think betting the turn it would be just fine as well.
Right.
As your opponent's just not going to have a ton of queens. He is going to find a way to get away from this, and I mean, does make the quote-unquote correct fold as he gets away from losing 125, but I'm not too sure if, well, I don't know. His opponent, if his opponent's not taking under pairs and turning them into a bluff on the river for that size, then
Right.
it's probably a perfectly fine fold.
And I'm not sure how many people are going to take under pairs and turn into a bluff. So.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, certainly for that size. I don't know. You'd probably bet a little bit bigger. Just be like, no, I have a queen that I checked back, or
Right.
something. I don't know. All right, 557 of you fine folks hanging out with us tonight. Thank you guys for joining us. 90 likes on the ticker. If you haven't already, help us out. Hit that like button. We would appreciate it very much. And, of course, if you are not subscribed to the channel, please do make sure that you hit the subscribe button as well. All right, lucrative here, waking up with number 1, facing an open and a call in between. 275 from the straddle here. Very small 3-bet. And this is just begging his opponents to come along, which they both will. And Tommy here actually with Not the ideal hand to crack aces, but pretty good one. And my goodness, I think that's even more out of focus than the last time, but I have been given assurances that it will be fixed. Tommy here going to flop bottom pair and an up and down straight draw. Not the board necessarily that Lucrative was dreaming of, but going to bet nonetheless.
And now that he bets.
Half pot here. JC has a pretty easy fold as the man in the middle.
It'll be interesting to see how Tommy decides to play this.
Yeah, honestly, I think he can just pile it all in and hope that his opponent has overcards and will just fold it.
Given Lucrative stack size, I think that.
Yeah, it's tough to argue that like any type of like suit type thing is ethical.
It's not an inspiring look at the cards type move.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like this now makes the stack to pot ratio far too challenging for you to get paid when you hit it.
Right.
Or continue if your opponent just rips it all in, right? Like now he's going to have to fold away all of this equity if his opponent just goes all in here.
Right.
And this is a pretty nasty looking board if you're lucrative with two aces. But
nobody's happy.
You have to go all in.
And he's just going to, SPR a little less than one. Right.
And he fades the snap call, and inside he did a fist pump like,
right.
yes!
Now he's feeling good. That's always a great feeling, right? When you're like, please don't snap call. And they don't, and then you can sit back and relax and be like, okay, well, now I sort of hope I get a call.
Yeah, well, I think at this point you're going to be basically indifferent because if they do call, they're going to have a ton of equity. As we can see, Tommy, with his particular combo, has 34% equity.
Right.
You can think of a lot of hands that are going to have, like, pair and a flush draw.
Right, right.
Or just, like, flush draw with a gut shot, something like that, right? Jack, Jack 10 of clubs or something like that that didn't feel inclined to rip it on the flop. I don't know. Yeah, whatever the case.
Or a spot where you sit back and think, please have jacks or tens or something.
Yeah, yeah, so where you're just like super dead.
Right.
Tommy is going to do some math here. He's actually getting like
pretty much exactly the correct. I was just doing that in my head.
Yeah.
Pretty much exactly the correct pot odds if he wants to, but.
Yeah, this is a break-even call basically. Break-even call / fold. And in these spots, you just kind of go with your gut or with the little demon on your shoulder that's like, we want to gamble, or no, right. we're just going to fold our bottom pair. It's all you have. Like, you know you have to catch up.
Okay, and he's going to make the call.
The eviler demon on Tommy's shoulder did get his way, and Tommy will make the call. Off to a river we go. And that looks favorable for 5-4.
Yeah, it's the sickest out of them all. There was Chaz's 4.
Oh,
we knew it was somewhere.
And the cards down, like, oh,
wow.
I think I might have lost, and I'm gonna fold.
Oh, did he do that? I didn't even see.
I mean, no, I'm not saying that it was like an intentional slow roll or
no,
anything, but like he kind of held them out face down, and then flipped him over.
As Tommy there, you've got to think that river is giving you the best hand.
Yeah.
Ugh. We got some sickness to start off the stream tonight.
Indeed, Tommy running well. Hits the 4 on the end. Did have quite a few outs.
Right.
But that was definitely one of the dirtier ones to hit. And I think, that hand would have played out the same nasty result, but it would have felt maybe a little bit more like justified for lucrative, right? To be like, yeah, well, you had a pair and a straight draw, and you check jammed it on me, and like, yeah, what are we gonna do?
Right. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
It's funny how many hands sort of might have ended up being played out the same way, but could have gone in so many different directions, right?
Yeah, like the mechanics of how all the money got into the middle could be dramatically different,
so different,
and substantially change like the strategy that each player was trying to implement.
Right.
Yeah.
And like you said, that's probably the sickest way for it to happen for lucrative.
Yeah, because you're just like, oh, you check called the flop and then check called
the turn.
So I guess it's not a check. It was just he just called in position.
Right.
Sorry, but still.
Tillman gonna limp in here.
$50 straddle
And
here.
Lexo wakes up with a hand here. Pocket tens, raise it to 250.
The sizings here from a couple of these players have been a little bit interesting. This is a $50 straddle on top of the $20 straddle, so there's some sizable dead money out there. But to take it up to a 5x there to 250 against an early position opener, you're sort of asking to just like get
Well, I think
smashed.
Tillman limped in. Right, I think the straddle was to 50 and then Tillman limped.
You're right. You're right.
So I think it's okay. I mean, it's still pretty big, but
Yeah, I mean, I guess 4x wouldn't be
think-
that much less anyways.
Right.
You're right. Yeah. Slicer makes a call from the straddle position. 3 ways to a 9-high board.
given people's propensity to not fold things here, I think that sizing bigger is always sort of all right.
Yeah,
You
no,
know,
I
within
agree.
the realm of reason.
Sure. Lexo checks back this board.
That's a super interesting check there.
I don't think I really care for that too much. There's a time and a place to sort of do pot control, and on a wet board like this, I'm not too sure I understand the
Oh,
goal.
he's gonna take it. Interesting. I agree with you. I think that's sort of a board where, you know, you don't love it, but I think you just have to.
Well, you don't have any spades, so like you can
Right.
bet and continue against a check raise
Right.
because you've got an overpair to the board, and a lot of your opponent's raises are going to come from spades holdings. And
Right. There's just so much stuff that you're doing pretty well against, right?
yeah,
And you can't always be worried about, you know, somebody
7,
having-
8. you know,
Right, 7, 8.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, if they got it, they got it. And if they have 2 pair, you're still live to 2
Right.
pairs or trips. And yeah, no, I generally would have thought that could have been played more aggressively on the flop, multi-way. Just a small bet was really all that was required too. Something like half pot, 40% pot, something like that. You don't have to go huge, but anything to thin the herd from 3 players to 2
Right.
at least. Pierre here, going to raise it up in the cutoff. 75 to go now. JC in the straddle with the KJ. Makes the call. Slicer
Flop the best of it.
from the big blind does flop the best. Top pair.
And Pierre's got a pretty big hand here.
Yeah, mandatory continue for Pierre
A little
with
less than half pot. Call.
nut clubs. Bank
banks it.
City.
Slicer has the 10 of clubs there as well. And
I'd like to see Pierre size up a little bit here, like 375, 400.
right, I think he can get called by a lot here.
Amassing a chunk of green chips. 375. Slicer with a mandatory check call here. No point in raising, and a fold is out of the question.
Right.
Does make the call, and really doesn't want to see
Do
a
a river.
queen or a 10 on the end.
Queen would be sick. Oh, and it's a blank.
Yeah, that's going to make him feel pretty good. He's going to check it over, and Pierre is going to go big, and honestly, he's up against a decent queen, which is going to be sort of top of range for Slicer. Then he can hit him with the overbet here.
Right. I feel like this is a pretty annoying spot for Slicer to be in. Your opponent is just going to have a lot of sort of natural bluffs here, I feel like. And he's going to do the same thing with a lot of his ace of clubs, X hands. And I think if you're folding a queen here, you're probably overfolding.
Yeah. Doesn't go
But-
for the overbet, but the full pot, 1.1K. And yeah, Slicer is just handcuffed
Yeah,
here,
just
has
gonna
to make
have
the call.
Yep, it's sort of a gross spot.
Yeah, that hand, and so a lot of people will find a way to fold the queen 10 here. They're like, no, like if you go full pot on the river after going like 3/4 on the turn, like you've just got it, and I'm just gonna fold, right?
Right.
And in this spot, they'd sort of pat themselves on the back and say, yeah, like good fold me.
Right.
And honestly, you're going to get run over by someone who is playing balanced. It's like you said, where, you know, like ace-king with ace of clubs or king of clubs is just going to, like, bet that flop 100% of the time, picks up equity on the club turn, going to bet large and try to get, you know, to just win the pot with ace high.
Right.
And then gets to the river, doesn't improve, and is just going to try to push you off of it. And if you fold, well, then that's a huge win for them.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you get into sort of the combos of hands that pair's going to have there, I think that there's going to be a lot more ace or king of clubs X than the made flushes. And so it just puts you in a really annoying spot there.
Yep. And don't get me wrong, like you're going to run into the flushes a lot, right? Like you're not like
Right,
fist
for
pump
sure.
calling
Yeah,
with the
right,
queen
of
10,
course not, but
you are definitely just sort of handcuffed
Right.
in that spot. Slicer, understanding that completely and just going to pay it off.
snap
All right.
calls there, yeah. I think like you said too, it's just a spot where there's a lot of spots in poker where it feels like you just kind of have to do things that you know that you're not really loving, but you have to do them to try and play as balanced or as well as possible. And, you know, it's just sort of how the game is, and sometimes you just run into it, and that's sort of what happened there.
Yeah.
Because he could have just as well turned over the bluff with ace of clubs or
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
And then, like, all of this is to say that it's very opponent dependent, right? Now, like,
Right, of
if
course,
you're
of course.
playing against Tillman and Tillman takes that same line, then you can probably fold the queen 10 and be more correct more often, right, than against a player like Pierre. And
Right.
that's not a dig on Tillman or anything. That's just, like, recognizing player tendencies is, like, some players are going to be much more prone to fire 3 streets with a bluff than others. And picking up on that, you know, obviously Slicer has a lot of experience with Pierre. They play a lot.
Right.
And, yeah, he's just not going to roll over for
Right.
that bet on the
Which
river.
is definitely one of the things that makes playing poker so fun, I think, in my opinion. There's so many aspects and so many things that you have to be good at to be a winning poker player. Like understanding player tendencies and stuff like that. Like you could be some absolute online crusher and come play live and get run over if you don't understand how people are playing, and you have to adjust your strategy.
Yep. King high board here, Lex O with a couple of ladies.
Fire out small.
Yeah, just going to drag this small
Take it
pot
down.
here. As Tillman got in there from the big blind with the 7 deuce, going to try to tune somebody up for the love of the game. Didn't quite work out.
A lot of premium so far. Seen a lot of big pocket players. See if we can-
Pocket queens in particular, right? Like, we haven't
Right.
seen jacks, I don't think, yet, but queens have been around the block. I mean, we've seen that like a half dozen times. A couple of kings, a couple of aces, and, yeah, some ace-kings as well. All right, taking a look back at the chat. Let's see here. We got about 27 minutes until me and David Pratt can wager away. Ivan Flores, thank you very much for subscribing. Welcome to the team. Gonna check my TCHLive loyalty points.
I'm thinking about
Increase them by 1. Every time I check my points, I get a point, which is pretty much the only way I get them, besides beating Carolyn and or David Pratt in Gamble Wars.
Got another premium here. Slash are gonna open up the ace king suited to 40. Tillman going to call the small blind with jack 9 off, and Tommy gonna complete with king 9 suited.
Says call, but does he actually have cards lurking
Well, it
behind the
looks
wall of chips over
like
there?
maybe he folded. Tough to tell. Not sure what's going on.
No, I don't think Tillman was in this hand.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, Tommy needed to see a flop, but then
Right.
ditches it on this paired board, and that's the end of it. All right, I am also going to, well, I guess football hasn't quite started yet.
Great game tonight. My Patriots
Patriots Bills, yeah.
doing pretty well this year.
Wait, you're a Patriots fan? Is that what
I
you
grew
said?
up in Boston.
Oh, okay.
so
All right.
I feel like I always have to justify it. Right? 'Cause, hey,
Yeah,
you're
what
a
are you, some
Patriots
sort of
fan? How
Patriot?
dare you? I always have to tell them, well, I grew up there, and then I get, oh, I guess that's okay then, right?
Yeah. Well, it was just such a long stretch of Tom Brady just destroying everybody every year, and it just sort of being eye-rolly about everybody, you know, wearing Patriots gear and stuff. And it was like,
Honestly, it got sort of boring. Like, they were so good. It's just, all right, they're in the playoffs again.
yeah, like, yeah, my
I'm
guys
kidding.
just win.
I'm just being an obnoxious Patriots fan here. But yeah, it's like, oh, okay, we're in the Super Bowl again. Now, whatever, no one cares.
Well, must be nice. I'm a Broncos fan, and actually
They're
this
pretty
year,
good this year. They're
Yeah.
rebuilding, right? But
well,
that was a great trade. The Von Miller trade ended up working out pretty well for them, I think. So
yeah, and we'll see, right? Like, they've got some good talent, some good long-term talent.
right,
We've got Javonte Williams, who I think is going to be a good, strong running back for us for a couple of years.
man,
Of
he was
course, we've got
impressive last night. He was running over the Chiefs.
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah. And even Boone was getting in there and doing
Yeah.
some work,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that was pretty good. And then Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, right? We've got a couple of really good wide receivers. Noah Fant in the
Right.
tight end position. A pretty good, strong core of defensive players as well. They've underperformed a little bit this year in terms of expectations for them. But,
Right.
yeah, I think the Broncos are not a bad team, but they've been a sort of perpetually middle-of-the-road team for the last decade or so.
Right.
And, you know, you'd either like want to just hit rock bottom,
Right.
get some top draft picks, and start over and like actually come back, unlike, you know, the Bears or the Lions or
Right.
the Jaguars or something where they just are always at rock bottom. But anyways, the Broncos are going to, I think, parlay this season into some momentum next year, I think. And we'll see how things go
Yeah,
then.
I
I mean,
think-
hell, they could make playoffs and actually do something this year too. I
Right.
won't write them off, but
I think they have just enough, like slightly too much talent to blow everything up, kind of deal. So they're in, like you said, sort of in a like tricky spot as somebody who owns or manages that team. But they definitely have some solid pieces.
yeah, no, I agree. AJ and JC are two-syllable players going at it here.
AJ gonna continue
Two-syllable, two-letter,
Letter.
two letters.
2-letter, right?
Also two syllables, but
That's a fun card. See if JC wants to keep betting.
he would have much rather that was a 9 of spades, but he definitely isn't going to slow down. And yeah, I think AJ's in a pretty tough spot here.
I think for AJ, like his opponent is just gonna have so many bluffs here, right? And like 5's just sort of an annoying hand, but he doesn't block spades or hearts. And so like if you're gonna find a combo of 5s to call with, this is probably a pretty good one. But I mean, like it feels sort of like a spot where it's just like, maybe I'm supposed to call with this, but I don't have to, and I can just let it go. But
Yeah, because AJ has 1.4K behind, right? So he's basically
right.
committing all of those chips to try to win the 715 that's in there, and that includes the bet that just came from JC, which was a full pot size bet, right?
Right.
So there was 350 in the pot, and he was going to have to
Right, that's
commit
fair.
his whole 1.4K
Right.
to try to win it plus double up with 5s,
Right.
Yeah, it might have been all right, but even if he's right, most of the time he's going to be up against a hand that's going to have a whole hell of a lot more equity than the 10-8 off
Right.
than that JC had right there, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so I think that most of the time you're like, all right, even if 5s are good, I'm going to be like a 60% favorite.
Right.
And
I sort of keep forgetting that AJ's short. So
Yeah.
maybe a different story if
Yeah.
it's like Chaz or something. But
Sure. Oh, yeah, no. Slam dunk continue for certain players,
Right.
I think,
we were saying
that are
maybe a
just
little
going to
future,
get sticky, right? They're
Right,
just
right.
they're going to have a deep stack and they're going to be sticky.
Right.
Not let JC get away with shit. Because anybody who's played with JC or anybody that's watched this show and seen JC play in the past, like, that dude comes to ball, right? Like, he will hit you with some 3-barrels and shit
Right.
where he picks up the funky gutter and is like, this is my shittiest hand that I'm ever continuing
Right.
with, and I'm going to give you the full pot business on the flop and then or on the turn and probably like full pot or overbet the river
Right.
if I break.
Right.
Just because what are you going to do about it?
Which is always tough. It always is tough to play against people who are going to put you in tricky spots like that. And so, and a pretty good flop for Lexo here. Nobody has much of anything, so I imagine this just sort of folds around, but flop trips with 8-6 suited, and he's gonna look annoyed and throw his cards in the muck.
Iron Bite AD dropping an orange crush, baby. Hell yeah. Dude, I went to the Broncos-Chargers game 2 weekends ago.
Oh, cool.
And that was awesome, dude.
That's awesome.
We gave it to him, man.
Yeah.
That was a really cool game to watch as the defense really came up strong in that game, and I was sort of perplexed. I mean, I loved it, right? It was awesome. But like Herbert just usually doesn't make the kind of mistakes that he made in that game because a lot of it they were unforced errors. Like I think he was just airing it out into like double coverage that he just didn't need to.
Yeah.
But also the defense played really well. Offense played well. Well enough, I guess I should say. They weren't lighting it up or anything, but won the game.
Seems like he's having one of those years, sort of, right?
Justin Herbert, you mean?
Right, yeah. Where
Generally pretty darn good. I think he's like a top 7 or so quarterback in terms of fantasy scoring. I could be wrong about that,
he?
but
I thought he's had a tough last few weeks, but
Let's
maybe I'm wrong.
find
I could
out.
definitely be wrong.
number 3 quarterback in this league that has kind of funky scoring with additional points for touchdowns for quarterbacks. But yeah, now I'm curious. I'm going to go find this out. Let's see. And he's the number 2 quarterback in scoring in a normal PPR league. So, no, he's doing quite well this year.
I was definitely wrong.
Yeah, it was very uncharacteristic for him to make those mistakes.
Take back what I said, and we'll just move on. What's their record? Do you know?
Oh, the Chargers?
Yeah.
7-5 maybe. Let's find out.
Solidly in the hunt. Did you see the end of the Steelers-Ravens game last night?
Steelers-Ravens last night. No, I did not.
That was a super exciting game.
Was
They
it?
went
Okay.
for the Ravens had a couple corners get injured, and so they scored a touchdown in the last few seconds to make it 20-19, and they went for 2 to try and win it. And
I did see that play
Yeah,
on
they-
replay, yeah.
just missed it, but it was back and forth all game. It was really, really exciting game.
Yeah, no, AFC West, a really strong division.
Yeah.
Chiefs at 8-4, Chargers 7-5, and then Raiders and Broncos both at 6-6.
Right.
AFC North in the exact same spot with the Ravens, Bengals, and Steelers and Browns. So, yeah, those two divisions just a lot of middle of the road strength, and then honestly, no division is really just like super polarized except for NFC South, right? The Buccaneers are just way out in front over the Panthers and Falcons and Saints. Packers over the Vikings, and then sort of everything else is a little bit closer. There's more room for some of the middling teams to still make a late push, and make a name for themselves going into the playoffs.
Tough loss for the Vikings, losing to the defeated Lions in a game they had to win.
Yeah, that was
a bummer for them.
Ridiculous.
Right.
Yeah.
And we got a bomb pot here, so let's see.
Yeah, looks like Sal taking over in the box.
Some of the quickest hands here at TCH Austin.
Absolutely right. King 8-5, Badoogie. 225 in the middle would be a full pot size bet for any player that wished to exercise it. Lucrative says, how about 60 with top and bottom pair with a gut shot straight draw. Backdoor hearts and diamonds.
I always feel like it's really hard to use this sort of sizing in a bomb pot because
I actually think. Sorry, continue your thought, but
I just feel it's really hard to balance, especially being first to act if you bet 60 here, because like I think that you're gonna do it with hands that are sort of exactly what like Lucrative has almost always, and it makes it really easy for your opponent to sort of range you.
Yeah.
Especially because there's no pre-flop. But I don't know. These pots always confuse me, and so I might be totally off the mark there. But
No, I think you're not wrong. Although I do think that you can balance it pretty easily with your 6-7 with backdoor or double backdoor type hands, where like you would love to thin the field and get it down to just a couple of players where you're not fading like all of the 2 pairs or turn 2 pairs, river boats, right? Like all of that shit that just happens in PLO.
Right.
Where the $60 bet is just going to get a bunch of those people that just have like middle pair and some backdoors. They're just going to be like, you know what, it's not worth it, and just fold, right? Like that's a big win for you.
Right.
So the top and bottom pair, the bottom 2 pair, the bottom set, and the straight draws with backdoors, I think all can benefit from those
Sure.
small to middling sizes. But I think you're right that it's unlikely that you're going to have top set and bet 60 there, right?
Right.
Like you just don't have that hand
Right.
if you bet 60.
And then, I don't know, it makes it tough to play turns and rivers. I mean, he ended up folding the best hand there, but it was sort of a not so great run out either way, probably.
David Pratt here saying Austin doing bomb pot analysis, as if that's even possible to do. Well, you know what? It is possible to do, and we're doing it, buddy.
I think it's a lot more feasible to do on a single board as well. It's a little easier to think about. And you could probably make a case that you could do it for a double board, but, you know.
I love the quote here. Well, his range on the bomb pot is wide, plus it's stupid, and everybody might as well have a lobotomy. Yes, you definitely might as well have a lobotomy there, David Pratt, especially before our next gambling session, which is going to be in T-minus 12 minutes.
David Pratt is our resident comedian here, huh?
Yeah, dude, Pratt
He's
is
a
hilarious.
very, very funny guy.
Yeah. Big fan of the Pratt. We had a great time in here 2 weeks ago or whenever that was, and look forward to having him back in the booth with me. But also really excited to and happy to have you in here with me. I know that I'd asked you to join me in the booth many months ago, and you kind of gave me the cold shoulder. And
Me?
then,
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh.
I don't remember that at all.
Okay.
Are you, really? I would have snapped. Really? I would have been really excited to. I thought.
Really?
Yeah. this
Okay. Well,
sounds
maybe
cool.
I'm mixing you up with somebody else, but I thought that I asked you, and you were like, I don't know, and you kind of like waffled a little bit.
Oh,
Like,
really?
And again, sorry if I'm mixing you up with somebody else. Maybe I did.
I don't know. I don't remember that. I mean, maybe I was just stuck a bunch and annoyed.
That may have been the case. But no, I also may have just completely mixed you up with somebody else.
No,
but
it's been a lot of fun being back here.
hell yeah, man. Mike Youngblood, what's going on, buddy?
Oh.
Long time no see. Good to see you here. Mike Youngblood saying that he's very, very clever, indeed. I think that's some sarcasm being directed towards perhaps someone else, but
Let's go, Brandon. I don't know who Brandon is, but
limp flat donk lead, hell yes, JTN 1968. Bringing us a blast from the past. Limp flat donk lead, hell yes. David Pratt was a big fan of that move. All right, the king.
limp flat donk.
Limp flat donk lead, that's right. AJ
That's
here
a
with
great
the
line.
king 8 suited is going to make the raise to 75. I assumed as much, but took him a minute to assemble the wager. JC in the big
JC?
blind facing this hijack open. What do you think?
I think you can probably mix, but he's going to come in for the 3-bet. I feel like that's fine first later, but again, like we've talked about a lot. I don't know if you want to be bloating hands against AJ here, but I don't know. Do you think it's a clear 3-bet?
No, I think you can mix it, but I definitely think that the 3-bet is going to be the more standard play.
Right.
Hijack or cutoff, hijack to button opens. Like king queen is just going to do really well against them.
Right.
And playing out of position, you'd rather have the pre-flop lead with a hand like king queen, where you're going to miss a lot of flops, but ace high comes and you just bet and win, right?
Right.
Like that's huge for you.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
you're gonna be really well served by 3-betting against those opens from
Yeah.
hijack cutoff button. Just, I mean, even with hands that aren't as strong as king queen.
Right.
I really like to see it when people do it with 9-8 suited, 10-8 suited,
Right.
things like that, where you're reaching down into the range, sort of into the depths of your 3-betting range, but like now you just give that hand so much more power because your opponent's going to have to continue with a bunch of their hands like just in position, and they were probably opening something playable, right?
Right.
Or hell, maybe you just win, right?
Yeah.
You 3-bet them with the 10-8 suited, and they just like let go of Queen 9, and you're
Right.
like winning.
Right.
I mean, that's the best. AJ here, he's going to try it again. Raise to 60 and lucrative. Just going to make the flat call here. The ace queen offsuit.
That's always a fun spot. I forget that that's the point of 3-betting sometimes because you so rarely get folds, I feel like, here. And so sometimes people fold and you're like, oh, yeah, that's why. That's why I do that.
Yeah, well, if you aren't,
Oh,
if
man.
you never get folds to your 3-bets, then your 3-bet raise size is
Right.
not large enough.
Lucrative. Flops a pretty good hand. I like to see him just call here, and that's exactly what he's going to do. But I agree with that.
Because it's very true that people are super sticky here, and I find it really often that my open raises don't get a lot of folds,
Right.
Especially from early position, it's just a cascade of calls all the way around. You sort
Right.
of eye roll
Yeah,
and
yeah.
go into a 5-way pot first to act, right? Like with ace king.
Yeah,
and
you're like, oh, this is fun.
yeah, but 3-bets for sure should be getting folds. If you're not getting folds, then you should be sizing up to the point where you're making your opponents indifferent
Right.
between calling and folding. If
So-
they're not 4-betting,
Right.
right? And so that's just sort of an empirical thing where you just kind of have to raise your wager until you get the desired result.
Right. Do you think that like standard sizing is usually pretty good around here? Like I would say, like if you're in position somewhere between
3 and 4x.
yeah, and
Yeah,
then out of
3 and
position,
4x
go-
I think works pretty good. Out
Yeah.
of position,
Go
4 to
like-
5.
I usually go like 4 to 4.5 out of position. I feel like that's usually appropriate.
Yep.
Um,
Most of the time I would agree with that. A lot of that is going to be stack size dependent,
Right, right.
player dependent.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, no, I think
Yeah.
as a just sort of get out
Baseline.
your tape measure and sort of figure out the
right.
usual thing, then
Yeah,
yeah,
fun hand here.
indeed.
Let's get a. Interesting flop.
That should create some action between Lexo and lucrative. Pierre here is
Right.
the pre-flop 3-better though, and he is going to continue with the 2 overs, backdoor straight and flush draws. So in fact, we could get
And
action
it's actually
from.
a decent flop for pair as well, right?
Yeah, it's
As
very
a
disconnected. So
Pre-flop 3-better probably.
yeah, it's very disconnected. Any of his opponent's hands that are going to continue are going to be very frequently 1-pair type hands that he's
Right.
going to have 2 overs against.
Right. Oh, Lexo
So-
doesn't. I don't know. Do you think you peel one there? It might be a little loose.
No, I think it's perfectly fine.
You think?
To fold there? Yeah, because lucrative calls in between.
Yeah.
So
I guess you're right.
And you're out of position. What
Right.
are you hoping for? What do you do on most of these cards like this, right?
Yeah.
You're just gonna check fold.
sure.
So I think the ace-5 of clubs, while it does have some value,
Yeah.
it's gonna be much more valuable in a heads-up pot than a multi-way pot.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Pierre's going to continue here, does turn top pair, and this is the value of betting your 2 overs with backdoor draws.
Right, now lucrative is sort of in a spot where you have the best hand a decent amount of the time here, but you're
Yeah.
probably not super happy, right? Especially with his given his stack size here.
I mean, I think that you're handcuffed to a call, personally.
I agree
but
with that. I mean, you can't really raise, right? And then
yeah, certainly a raise doesn't accomplish
folding
anything.
seems a little bit too new. But again, like maybe if he feels like if he calls here, he's like sort of committing his stacking. But I don't think that's the case.
Well,
so.
you're always in that situation when you're playing this short stack, right?
It's just
I mean,
a spot, yeah, where playing.
he's like
it's tough to-
generally playing 100 big blinds with
Right.
a 2K stack.
Right, right. It's gonna be a tough spot.
Yeah, he is going to make the call here. I think there's just no getting away from it. Stack to pot
Right.
ratio is under a 1 now.
Right. And
Brick City here on the end. I mean, this is a backdoor diamond draw does come in. Lucrative doesn't have a diamond. So if Pierre goes all in here, which he should, Lucrative actually could find a fold, and I don't think it would be the worst fold in the world.
Right.
Because you're going to want to make plenty of calls with your middling pairs, like your good 9s,
right.
your 10s. If you ever have jacks, you're going to need to call with those hands that probably have a diamond.
Right. Do you think this is a board where it's like maybe better to, like if Pierre's gonna shove here, which I guess he effectively does, right? 13 or 14, yeah.
Yeah.
So if Pierre's gonna shove here, like as lucrative, would you rather have a hand like 6s or 7s to call here with? because you're
Oh,
sort of
unblocking
double
the 10
blocking,
jack.
right? The Jack 10, King 10 sort of hands? Or is that something that you're not really like thinking is super relevant in this spot? Or
Well, it is and it isn't. I mean, I definitely think that having 10s or jacks does interact with your opponent's bluffing range a lot.
right,
And therefore, folding your non-diamond combos, I think, is perfectly fine. Folding that combo right there, I think, is perfectly fine. Now, if you have a diamond so that you block the King 10 of diamonds that turns the equity and rivers the flush, right?
Right.
Like, you block that shit, you got to make the call.
right,
Because that's going to be a large part of his sort of turn bluffing range
right,
that then would have rivered the stones, effectively.
right, right.
And if you don't interact with his non-bluffing range, then you should also be making the call. But two offsuited 10s do interact with the bluffing range.
Right.
So, I think that's perfectly good fold.
Right. No, I think that's right. It's just an interesting thing to think about, I think, in that spot because, like, he's never going to be taking that line with, like, some sort of, like, 9x hand, right? So, like, 7 and 10s are basically the same thing, except that you unblock Jack 10 there.
Yep.
But
Yeah, 7s or
it's
8s.
always
I
fun
mean,
to
yeah,
hear your
you
thoughts
could
about it.
you could try to convince yourself that 7s or 8s would be like a better like call down hand, and you'd probably be right. But I still don't think that you should be dipping that far into your calling range.
No, I agree. I think for sure he's got a pretty.
Because like I don't
think
even
you're
think
just
you
gonna
should
fold that a
have
lot. Right.
7s. Maybe you should still have 7s and 8s on the turn. I don't know. That one's getting borderline. But anyways, Tillman is just gonna let this
Take
one go. Pierre will win with 5-5.
Alright.
Michael Tilton asking if Streamlabs is not working or if we're not doing something right. Let me try to check my points and see if I can get a response.
Preston D says dealer in the box is crispy with the cards. Gotta agree with him there.
Crispy.
Well, I think crispy with the cards is a good thing, right?
Hell yeah, it
I'm
should
not
be.
there with the lingo, but
David Pratt's getting pumped. He thinks, oh, he's shit talking me even, dude. The feeling of my inevitable loss. Guess what, buddy? I'm gonna enjoy the extra $20 worth of Taco Bell that you're about to give me more than any other Taco Bell I've ever had. So you know what? Bring it on. But yeah, it does appear that Streamlabs went and shat the bed. We'll have to get David in here to fix this thing. Really? Well, you can still do it from his. Yeah.
wow, Pierre gonna 3-bet to 750. Wow. So what do you think about this side? I think there's. It looks like there's like 3. This straddle to 100 and then 3 calls maybe, and then he's gonna make it 2 or 3 calls. I couldn't tell.
Yeah.
Seems pretty
So
big.
it well it is big, but
Maybe. Okay.
you can what you can do is you can take these middling strength big pairs, jacks, 10s, and then your middling suited connectors and go for a big squeeze size
Okay.
where it puts your opponents in kind of a tough spot where they're like, yeah, you're probably not doing that with aces and kings because
Right.
you want me to play, but if you can have jacks when you're doing that, then I'm not just like, oh, this dude's always got like 6-7 suited, or, right? Like, so if you're doing it balanced, then I think it's perfectly fine because it's awesome
There's
to
a
have
yeah.
a bunch of different bet sizes
Yeah.
and like a really big squeeze size like that. Just like I do it all the time,
Right.
Like,
Right.
and people just sort of roll their eyes and fold to me, and I'm
Right.
like, yeah, well, I had jacks.
Right. And
You
just
could have
pick
played,
up-
and I would have been happy to play a heads-up pot against you. But if you make it 4.5 there, and then they call, I mean, then you hate to have jacks, right? So
Right.
I think it's perfectly fine.
Right. I assume this is something you only employ out of position, right?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
David Pratt says, what are you afraid of, AA Run? I'm afraid of nothing. I'm afraid of eating too much Taco Bell because you lose too many times to me. That's what I'm afraid of.
Give him a mic.
I'm going to
never have
balloon
too
up to
much
300
Taco Bell,
pounds and die of, Taco Bell-induced heart failure. So that's what I'm afraid of, David.
That's David's long. That's the long play, right? That's what he's going for. He's just going to lose all of these and
Until I just
induce some
keel over.
Taco Bell infused.
All right,
Or
Slicer here
something
turns
anyways.
top pair.
We got a mystery hand.
That's
And
again.
that's
Oh,
a pretty
no.
good river for Slicer, I'd say.
If Tommy has a 9, RIP to probably an overbet.
Right.
Slicer here, if he's going to bluff, is going to have to bluff big, and if he's going to go for value, he should also go big.
Right.
1.5K would be very reasonable. Let's see, 1.2. So he's going to keep it a little bit smaller than the 1.5x.
Right.
1.2x is still a tasty little overbet. And Tommy
And he's really
is
thinking about it. He
gonna make
doesn't.
the call.
He hates
Yeah.
it. And let's see the 9 or pocket 10s, something like
Yeah,
that.
no. He almost certainly had a 9.
Right. And for Tommy, that's just not super fun for him.
Yeah, it probably even ace 9, right?
Right.
I mean,
Yeah, ace 9 is just like you kind of hate it, but
yeah. David Pratt deleted his message, but it was a good one. I saw it before it disappeared. Oh, he was spamming caps. Streamlabs shot you down. That's what happened. You got slapped. All right. Well, the time has come, good sir. And I will allow you to decide. Do you want to go first and lose or go second and lose?
and Tillman turn to have pocket 4s here. Tommy gonna come in with a call with a mystery hand.
Wait, can you gamble on a timeout? Oh no. Pratt, if you just set us back another like 10 minutes on our gamble, I'm gonna be sad. I'm gonna have to beat you for sure. Oh, he's back. All right, he's back and he's gonna go first. All right, unleash the fury, Pratt, for $20 worth of Taco Bell.
Tommy gonna go ahead and flop top pair and lead out here. He's gonna take it down.
Follow him on Twitter. He's Gage from Austin. Bigger guy. Always goes on road.
Oh, Tim Dillon.
Yeah,
All right, so Tim Dillon was the best live set I've ever seen.
Still waiting on Mr. Pratt to
The whole set.
gamble away. How you doing? You got some allergies going on over there, buddy?
So I've never experienced something like that where like you can't stop laughing.
Oh no, that's unfortunate. Ooh, I only have to beat a 26? I think I can do that. I think I can do that, David Pratt. Here we go. Let's see. Oh, Holly Oz stole my 69. It's cool. I'm going to get a hundy. No! Holly Oz stole my roll, dude. How did he steal my roll? I got a 20. I don't even see Holly Oz, like, with the hashtag gamble. Oh, there it is, right before me. Never mind. Oh, no. That's awful. All right. We're gonna have to set a rule, which is when me and Pratt are gambling, nobody gambles in between us. Damn it. That feels painful. It's a bad beat. JC here, flopping top set. Going to be tough for him to get bad beat, as it would need to come exactly a 4 on the river for Chop City. But he's going to bet and everybody's going to fold. All right, well, I guess we're back to even there, Mr. Pratt. As I got sniped by Hallie Oz. All right, taking a look at the like counter, 143 on the counter. Thank you guys very much for smashing the like button. 37.2 thousand subscribers as well. If you haven't had a chance to hit the like button or subscribe to the channel, please do.
Oh, man.
Join the team.
Did you lose to David?
Yeah, dude. He got a 26. I hit gamble 100, and Hallie Oz hit gamble 777 right before me. Got a 69, and I rolled a 20. And I lost. And I'm very sad. And I know I'm giving some shit to Hallie Oz, whoever that person is out there. You're totally fine. I love you, but you know I'm still salty that I lost to Pratt, and now we're even, and I don't get to eat any Taco Bell. I'm down to 0 Taco Bell, courtesy of David Pratt. At least banked Taco Bell. He's paid. He's already paid me out in the past.
This is pretty sick.
This is quite sick. Yeah, we should talk about poker because poker is happening.
At least when poker is exciting.
Yeah.
And I'd say this is pretty exciting.
Lexo
Lexo
gonna play this as
had a hand that he could have come in for a 4-bet with, but gonna elect to call.
both players flopping a wheel draw. Lexo with backdoor diamonds as well, but JC in the driver's seat. And JC literally had aces last hand.
Wow.
Flop top set, 1 on the turn against 2 opponents.
Wow.
I bet 300 here.
I don't think Lexo can do much besides call here.
Yeah, no point in raising as
That's
your
exactly
hand
what
is
it's
going to be
do.
best.
It's way too strong to fold here.
Yeah.
And
Oh, that
no!
is a bad card for
Wow,
Lexo.
that is so sick for Lexo. Oh, man.
Yeah, that is very unfortunate. I think Lexo could very well go down to the felt on this hand.
This hand is, I don't know how Lexo doesn't get felted here, especially against an opponent like JC, who's just going to, I can't see him not firing off turn barrel and river barrel, and the only sizing on the river that makes sense is probably going to be all in, I imagine. So I imagine we see a pretty hefty bet here.
JC is going to keep this much more manageable. It's actually going to be a little bit tougher to get all the chips in on the end, as this is 650. Actually, he's leaving himself exactly a pot-sized river jam.
Yeah.
Okay, I was going to say I think he's got an overbet jam on the river now, but no, it's in fact a full pot-sized bet.
Lexo now, again, in the sort of the same spot as the flop, right? No point in doing anything besides calling here.
Yeah.
And that really is just a very unfortunate turn for him.
Yeah, being in position here is where, yeah, just making the call
And
makes the most sense.
Lexo, a deuce bails him out.
A deuce or a king,
Deuce
and
one
that's
time.
it. Not to be.
And neither player has too many sixes in their range here.
If anyone does,
So-
it will be JC.
Right.
No, that's actually not true. I take that back. Lexo was the initial raiser from early middle position. He can have some sixes, but most of them would have been just the flopped joint.
Right.
But yeah, JC is just going to pile it in
Pile
here.
it, and Lexo, I don't know how he can fold here.
Yeah, I think.
I mean, you chop a lot of the times here, right?
Yeah.
You beat all the bluffs. It's sort of a spot where, like, I'm not so sure about this, and you'll probably have better insight into it, but, like, does JC have many bluffs here? Like,
Ace Queen. Ace Queen is going to be JC's strongest bluff.
right. But it just seems like a really gross spot for Lexo, right?
Yeah.
Like,
No, you're just getting
he's
belted.
gonna lose.
Yeah. It's one of those spots where you see the king on the turn and you're like, got him. Like,
Right.
well, if I was behind, I just caught up, and now I just play in position and hope to see all the chips go in and, feel pretty darn good about it. If my opponent does somehow have aces exactly or pocket kings, then it's just a cooler.
Right.
And there it was. That was a cooler.
Definitely. I think, again, like, player-specific thing here, like, against some players, if I saw them continue to bet turn and river there, I would be, like, not, a lot less happy there, right, as Lexo. But
Yeah.
Given how JC tends to play, and given I mean, still given his hand, I don't know how you're really gonna ever fold there. It's just unfortunate, and poker can be a really tough game sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, that is the truth.
And
But yeah, it just sort go ahead and
you
finish.
find these coolers that maybe at face value don't seem as gross as when you maybe get like 2 outed on a river or something, but these are just the spots where you just are going to lose a lot of money always.
Yeah.
And it's a bummer.
Yeah, well, on that one, it was actually Lexo got 3 outed, right? Like, you can,
Right.
Like that's
reverse
really what
gun.
happened
Yeah,
was
right,
because
right.
most turns
It's
he
pretty
was
gross.
just going to go ahead and fold.
Right, of course. Yeah.
Because he was not going to, unless it was a diamond, right? He could have picked up some additional equity, and 650 was the bet on the turn. So presumably 650 would have been the bet on a lot of turn cards.
Right.
JC here with the suited king queen is just going to win with a small, maybe not a small, but a squeeze from the big blind. But yeah, like 650, you're going to continue with your 2 overs and a turn diamond draw with the flopped gutter.
Right.
But then you're just gonna get away from it.
Right.
But not on a king. I see some people blowing up the chat talking about a Patriots touchdown.
Oh.
So indeed, there is a Patriots touchdown, and then they go for 2 right off the bat and get a 2-point conversion. So
The conditions are really bad, so maybe they're worried about kicking. Like it's windy and half rain, half snow, I think. So
yeah, no, that checks out. I do have Damian Harris in my lineup this week, and so that is quite nice to get the touchdown.
Are you winning, or do you need him to?
I am winning, but like my opponent has here. I can tell you, I'm playing Damian Harris and Tyler Bass.
Okay.
My opponent has the Patriots defense and Kendrick Bourne.
Okay.
So Damian Harris getting the long 64-yard touchdown. I think it was.
That's gonna help.
Yeah. That's going to put me into projected to win by 15, so that is quite nice in that week. All right, on to the next hand as JC's little mini heater continues. Lexo going to go ahead and add on for whatever all of those piles of chips are. As Seth comes over to get Lexo reloaded. Are you allergic to lots of things or just mostly cats?
I'm just allergic to cats, pretty much.
Yeah.
And
things in the air like pollen and mold and all that shit doesn't
I'm
get to you?
allergic to pollen.
Okay.
But I haven't had a bad reaction to anything in a while, and I felt totally fine. Sat down at the 1-2 table, and within like 30 minutes, I was sneezing and just dying. And so I don't know. I must be. It's hoodie weather, right? And so I must have been sitting next to someone who had a little bit of a cat or something.
Yeah, and all that dander.
Their
on
hoodie
there.
and
Hoodie.
now I'm sniffling up a storm. So apologies to everybody who has to listen to that.
We shall persevere, but
yeah, we're gonna make it through it.
King high flop, 2 players with a king. It's going to run out ace-ace, and these players are going to chop it up. As Slicer will get unfortunate run out, but of course you're never really looking to turn your 9 kicker into a lot of money. But yeah, luckily I'm not allergic to any like foods or animals, but I am plenty allergic to certain pollens.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. Back in New Mexico, chamisa, it's an invasive weed. It's just like everywhere. When that thing starts flowering during the monsoons, it is absolutely awful. And then around here, cedar and
the cedar. I had a few bad cedar days last spring or whenever it.
Yeah, cedar gets me pretty good, and then I think there's another one here that gets me too. I'm not sure exactly what it is. I haven't gone and gotten my arm like pricked with 1,000 needles to find out everything that I'm allergic to, but there are some things in the state of Texas that my body does not approve of.
I did that little thing when I was little because I just had so many bad reactions to things growing up. And it just ended being, and I feel like they've gotten better, which I think I read is a thing.
Yeah, sure. No, your allergies can change a lot throughout your lifetime.
the pollen and stuff has gotten a lot better, but I'm still just like super allergic to cats.
And then
Pierre here folds the 7 deuce. No love for the game for that man. Out of the
Man.
straddle. My God, it was $50, dude. No, every time I look down at the 7 deuce, I get that little heartbeat, like murmur
Yeah.
of like, oh, we're gonna get it. Oh
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
Oh, we're not playing the 7 deuce game, and then you just fold it because it's the worst goddamn hand you've ever seen.
Did you see the Greg Goes All In stream on Thursday?
Yes, it was amazing.
There were so many 7 deuces.
Yeah, dude.
AJ called a 4-bet shove with 7 deuce, and Greg had 7 deuce. So sick.
Yeah, dude. I didn't see that hand live, but
Oh, man.
dude, so
That
many
was
sick
crazy.
hands. So many sick hands.
It
All right.
wasn't even like a tiny jam either. I mean, it wasn't huge, but it was like AJ 3-bet to, I think, 75, and Greg made it like 500, and AJ just was like, all right, let's
All
run
right.
it.
Let's see
Oh,
what
man.
happened.
The 7 deuce game definitely makes things fun, though.
Yeah,
Someone
no,
coming in
7
for the
deuce game
call.
was good.
With ace 10 off from the cutoff. I think it's just a straddle pot here.
Yeah, yeah, limped through on the $25 straddle jack high board with the 9 deuce behind
Good fluffer, AJ. Wow. Always nice.
And yeah, with a limp pot here, Pierre is going to feel inclined to bet his
Gutter.
gutter and 1 over card. No clubs in sight, so that spade on the turn isn't going to be particularly inspiring.
Right.
Mo the cat says, I hope I am not the cause of your allergy. Well, don't
That's
get
funny.
too close to him and we'll never know.
Right.
AJ will win with a wager on the turn. But yeah, being allergic to foods of any kind would really suck.
Yeah.
My ex was allergic to all sorts of different nuts. All of the tree nuts were really bad.
It's always a tough one because like there's trail mix and stuff like up front. I always feel bad when I go to a table, I always ask people before I bring it to the table, but you know, not everybody is as considerate as I am. It's
Yeah, nobody
But-
checked it out. Is anybody here allergic to the cats that are all over my shit?
I know,
What a bunch of assholes, seriously.
but the tree nut one is a scary one. I feel like. That would be a tough one.
Yeah,
because
or
they're just-
shellfish, right?
yeah.
Like that one's a little bit easier because you don't
Right.
just like randomly have shellfish
Nobody has a
just
bag
like
of
in
shellfish
anything.
that they come eat at the
Yeah.
table, right? I mean, I haven't seen that yet,
Yeah.
at least, right?
But yeah, anything like that is just kind of stupid.
We had a conversation last time with the chat about what the strangest thing to eat at a poker table would be. We found some good answers, but shellfish would be pretty high up there.
Yeah, a raw lobster. Yeah,
Yeah, we settled on a bag of spaghetti.
a bag
A
of
bag.
spaghetti.
Yeah.
No, I think just a dismembered human arm. Just
Okay. Yeah, but like within the realm. We were trying to stay within the realm of reason.
oh, because a bag of spaghetti. No, I guess that is.
That's like
within the realm.
somewhat reasonable, right?
Yeah, sure.
It's definitely more reasonable than a human arm. Yeah. You know, you have to eat something that won't get the cops immediately calling.
Well, I mean, you know,
Yeah. Yeah. I
you're
guess.
trying to like stay within the fucking lines of whatever. you
Yeah,
know,
right. I
Not
guess.
go full silence of the lambs.
Right.
All right, AJ gonna open fold the ace-9 offsuit from
gonna
the
walk.
small blind, and I think that that's a mandatory open. Folds to you. Yes, you're gonna be out of position. Yes, you've got a sticky player in the straddle, but like ace-9, it's a good
Pretty
hand.
good hand.
I mean, it's not my favorite hand. Let's
Right.
be fair, but it's good enough. All right, 5-10, 25. On to the next hand. Skullbone says that his wife is allergic to shellfish, he's allergic to cats, and that you have 6 of them? Good lord, man. You're allergic to cats and you have 6 cats?
of them?
I mean, I feel like that's domestic abuse, honestly. I mean, I feel for you, buddy. I think there's a support hotline out there for you. Obviously, I'm not making light of domestic abuse, but like to have 6 cats and be allergic to them. That sounds horrifying. Hang in there.
Computer hamster.
Andres Diaz, yo, these commentators are mad cool and well versed in poker. Good vibes, dude. Thanks, man.
Thanks,
I just
Andres.
did.
We both did the shaka.
We did the we did the shocker right there. That's not, well, that's not the shocker. That's the
No, the shaka, isn't it?
oh
Shaka, bro.
shaka.
Yeah,
There's
shaka,
the
bro.
shaka and then there's the shocker. Sorry, yeah.
All right,
now I'm doing the shocker. Okay.
two completely different things.
But they can
Rated-
serve very similar purposes.
Two wholly differently rated things.
I don't know. Now I'm gonna have to go drop the shaka. See how it works out. David Pratt, I missed this little gem from David Pratt. Says Aaron is allergic to Taco Bell, or at least winning it. This fucking guy. If I didn't get sniped by Callie Oz, I'd have $40 worth of Taco Bell.
Mo the cat, I think that probably is. You probably mix with queens. That's my answer.
Oh.
Like if you're going to use that big sizing, right?
Yeah, well, I don't think it
but-
was a 10x squeeze. It was like
No,
a
it wasn't 10x.
It was like a 6.5.
Yeah, and there was a lot of dead money because there was a couple. I think it was $100 straddle and a couple calls. So the size is like a lot more reasonable with
Yeah.
that, given that action. But queens you probably mix.
Yeah, honestly, I think, you know, I said in the moment that you normally wouldn't do that with like your aces and kings because you'd want to make it a little bit more attractive for your opponents to call. But actually, as long as you aren't squeezing too wide, then you can just basically put your entire range into that large squeeze sizing.
Yeah, I actually like that more. I think it makes it a lot easier for yourself. Like,
Oh,
at the
certainly.
table, right?
Yeah,
Just
way
'cause-
easier to balance. No,
Yeah.
that's what I do. I don't fuck
yeah.
around with trying to do like a mid-size and a big
Yeah,
size.
yeah,
I
it's
just always
really
do the
hard.
big size.
I think my new favorite troll at the table is when people who I know are randomizing look at their watch. I ask them what time it is. It's pretty funny.
Wow, nice.
Only if I'm in a hand. Only if it's heads up and I'm in the hand with them. Oh, hey, what time is it?
Try to figure out what their randomizing
People react
schedule is.
to in pretty funny ways, I think. Our good friend Jay Wynn the other day just doesn't really react, proceeds to decide what he wanted to do, and then he goes, oh, it's 10:28 or something. I thought that was a good way to react to that.
Nice.
Just one of the fun things about, the little meta that goes on at a live poker table with people that you play with a lot.
Indeed. Indeed. All right, Big Daddy Chaz here found a hand that he can open. Has been quiet here for most of the night, I would
Very
say.
card dead, I would say.
Yeah, a lot of folding hands. Has gotten mixed into a few blind and straddle sort of hands, and that's about it. Tillman with a dominating couple of clubs and
Top
just...
2 and better clubs. That's nice.
Yeah. Checks it over. Big Daddy Chaz bets 30, and Tillman goes for the patented min-click check raise. Not quite min-click, but 2.5 check raise. And Chaz is like,
All right.
cool.
Yeah.
Whatever you have is better. I don't care if it's 4 or 5. Like,
Yeah.
I'm done.
Like, well, this is not very great. And Tillman going to take down another one. Seems to be doing pretty well.
Yeah, a little bit of a slowdown from his early initiative, but yeah, still doing quite well. We will take a look a little bit later at the cumulative winnings chart.
JC, the big winner so far.
Absolutely. Yeah, felting Lexo for over 3K
Right.
on that one hand, and then had that mini rush right there. Got back-to-back pocket aces, flop top set, and then took Lexo all the way down to the felt in the next hand. So yeah, that was a pretty good run. Then got queens or jacks, like or I don't know, I don't remember what it was, but another big hand within another couple of hands from that one. And also running good, getting a massage from the lovely Victoria of Texas Royal Touch. You can come on down to TCH North Austin, get yourself a tune-up from the licensed massage therapist of Texas Royal Touch. $1.50 a minute plus any appreciated gratuities. We'll get you a massage for as long as you need while you're at the table. Get you loosened up. I partake of the massages quite frequently. I feel like I don't see you getting the massages too often, but
I
you,
can't. I don't know how people play. I just can't.
oh, like you just like you go into massage mode
Yeah.
and you
I
can't
just
pay
like,
attention.
like I don't know what I don't know what I have. Oh, top set. Okay, call whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
How do I can't reach my chips? Like I just fully like have decided that it's too hard for me to do both things at the same time.
Yeah, it does
but-
take it takes practice and commitment.
It's definitely nice. I just think that I play worse when I so try to avoid them.
I'm just gonna order you a massage and see if my hourly goes up enough to offset the cost.
It's very reasonable here. $1.50 an hour, right? Or $1.50 a minute.
$1.50 an hour. I would
That would
pay.
be really good. $1.50 a minute.
I would pay $1.50 an hour for everybody in the world to get a massage.
But I think $1.50 a minute. David Dreyfus asks, Austin in the booth, are you going to play the live stream on Thursday? I am going to be back in the booth with David De La Pena.
Oh, nice.
So that'll be interesting. Aaron, are you playing?
I'm gonna try to get on there. Actually, yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. So we can commentate on Aaron's play. That'll be a lot of fun.
Hell yes.
So we'll see if he subscribes to the do as I say method,
The do as I say.
and we'll see.
You mean see if I actually play the way that I talk about
That's
playing?
exactly what I mean.
Ah, all right, all right.
So-
We'll see.
And I would imagine that you do. But we'll find out.
So yeah, so there's a very significant advantage to being able to see all the cards face up and to be able to discuss the strategy of like what the different
Everybody's a
players
pro
should
when
be.
you can see the cards.
Well, no, I mean like obviously you
Yeah.
need to understand the nuances of how the game works,
Yeah,
even
100%.
if you can see all the cards.
For sure.
Because like some people be like, oh, you should fold because you are beat, and it's like. You know, and we've seen these scenarios
Right.
play out tonight when Slicer called with the Queen 10. Like, he shouldn't be folding that hand, right?
Right.
So actually, there's way more to it than that. But at the same time, even as an experienced player and, you know, having some knowledge of the game and the strategy, right? Like,
Right.
seeing the cards face up, it changes your perception. Whereas if you're at the table and you're totally in the dark about what your opponent has, right? Like, you're no longer thinking like, okay, my opponent is just like, stuck with this range, they're capped, whatever, and I can go for value, and I
Right.
should be hitting them with the overbet and whatever to get max value,
Yeah,
right? Like
100%.
sometimes you're at the table and you're like, shit, I think I should be charging his like medium strength hands here, so I'm gonna like bet
Right.
a smaller size. And then to the person in the booth, it's like, oh, like why aren't you going for the overbet here, right? Like you would have gotten paid, and
Yeah.
so all of that can change your perspective a lot. In any case, I do obviously try to play at the table the way that I analyze the game in the booth. But
Definitely, definitely.
of course, we all are.
We're all human.
We're human. We make mistakes, and we are victims of the scenarios when you're seated at the table and you have someone like making a huge bet,
Right.
right? And you don't know what the hell they've got, and it's stressful. And
Right, of course.
maybe you're already stuck for the day, and
Yeah.
and it feels like, oh, I'm in another spot where I'm getting run over, right? Like
Right.
we're humans. All that stuff
Yeah.
affects us. Anyways, let's
We've
take a
all
look
been
here.
in spots where you're just not running very well or whatever it may be, and you make some play that in another scenario might have been different. Interesting river here. I mean, check, 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 check.
And
I
JC
guess.
does just make the wise call here.
Yeah.
Feels like if his opponent is ever just like going for this size with busted clubs, a raise is just never going to get a call. And
Right.
how often does a queen go for value, delayed value on the
Yeah.
river? So just makes the call, is behind, AJ drags the top. David Dreyfus says, looking forward to seeing you, AA Ron. Well, thank you very much. Yeah, I got a shot check with Seth to make sure I can get a spot on the stream. So hopefully I can. Be awesome.
Shout out to Seth. He took over running the stream, and he's been doing a really, really good job.
Absolutely,
He's very
I
on top
second
of it,
that.
very organized. Everything's, everybody's been getting here on time. I think he's doing a fantastic job. So,
Yeah, no,
little shout out there.
I second that wholeheartedly. Seth has done a fantastic job
Yeah.
after taking over the production of this show on Mondays and on Thursdays. Doing a really good job. So absolutely agree with that. King 8-7 here.
And the
Rainbow.
king jack just outflops the ace jack.
Slicer, a natural check over. Oh, sorry. No, he's in position. He's going to check this back after Big Daddy Chaz. Oh, Slicer was the pre-flop raiser.
What do you think
okay.
of that? That's an interesting check, right?
Check, check, and then check bet. So
Maybe,
top
like-
pair.
Go ahead.
No, I think top pair with medium to weak kicker is a perfectly fine check back.
Right.
And King 10, I think, would be a slam dunk check back. King 9 would be right in that wheelhouse as well. Going up to King Jack is fine, but King Jack can also go for value, at least half the time. But I think I think that's totally reasonable. What do you think?
Right. I think on the rainbow board it's fine. I would think. I guess the goal behind that, right, is like you want to have good hands in your range there when you check back, right?
You want to have
don't
good
wanna
hands.
you don't want to always be betting your top pair there, and
I didn't grab anything from you.
you want I don't know what.
No, you grab mine.
Like if he's gonna have strong hands in his range, though, like that seems like a pretty good one to put into his range. And maybe also a pot where you just don't want to play a huge pot with king semi-marginal kicker.
Yeah, which is sort of there's two advantages to checking back your top pair weak kicker type hands, and a jack isn't necessarily a weak kicker, but
Right.
it's on the edge, right?
Right.
And yeah, you're exercising pot control, you're keeping some strong hands in your checking range, and I think the other really big piece of it, if not like half of the puzzle or the Venn diagram or whatever that you want to talk about it as, is just allowing your opponent to take stabs on the turn. Because
Right.
you're in position, right? So you
Yeah.
can just check back, and then when your opponent is like, oh, it's a king high board and you're checking, like, if you just have pocket fours here, I'm going to bet and you're going to fold.
Right.
If you have ace 5, I'm going to bet you're going to fold.
Right.
So you give them an opportunity to turn a lot of their hands that have just totally bricked out into bluffs.
For sure. I think that's right. I think the one thing that gives me pause about that board is I'd be much more inclined to do something like that on a king 8-4 board or something like that. But king 7-8 is maybe a little bit connected, especially for against a calling range from I forget what position. Chaz was in there.
That's
But
true.
maybe because you just what happens if a 9 comes or a 6 comes or a jack comes? There's just a decent amount of cards that interact more with your opponent's range versus king 8-4. But I'm not sure. Maybe that's one thing about that is probably in live you just don't see enough hands where that becomes relevant enough.
Yeah,
and
I would
maybe
say
that's
that
too far into.
the biggest part of it is just going to be balance, right? It's
Right.
if you always bet king jack on that board because of the things that you've just mentioned, then it sets up a trend, and that trend can be recognized and exploited by someone as strong as Big Daddy Chaz.
For
but
sure, for
I
sure.
think the all of the other nuances of that, which is pot control plus having strong hands in the check back range plus giving Chaz an opportunity to bluff, right? The 7-8 specifically is going to oftentimes interact with Big Daddy Chaz's range, right? He can have a lot of pairs, he can have a lot of gut shots, he can
Right.
have just a ton of stuff that's all around there, and he's just going to start betting on the turn.
Right.
And if you bet the flop, he might even check raise you on the flop. And yeah, you're never going to fold, but you're also not going to love it when
Right.
you go
Oh yeah.
bet, check raise, call,
For sure.
bet call, right? You
Right.
really want to do that.
Right. That's a horrible spot to get check raised in, right? You're just
It's not horrible on the flop, but it's
Right.
horrible on a ton of turns and a ton of
Right,
rivers.
right,
That's
right,
when it
right.
becomes terrible. Because so many cards are going to interact with the 7 and the
Right.
8 by the river that you're going to maybe even have to fold.
right.
And that feels bad.
Right.
No, I mean, we've sort of beaten this to death, but hopefully the viewers are getting something out of the conversation, because it's That's one of those very specific hands that has so many different things going on, so many things baked into it,
Right.
and it just seems like such a simple hand.
Right.
It was a check and a check bet and a fold.
Right.
But there
And
was
it's
so
really
much more
not.
to it.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. I mean, you could break down some hands for, for hours, right, and just talk about all the nuances that go into it for sure. And I assume we're trying to not get too far into the weeds, but that's a pretty interesting one for sure. The snap 3-bet with Queen 4 suited from JC gets through. Just snap. Against Lexo. So that's a fun one.
Yeah, JC is running well tonight, and we've seen JC on this show many times in the past, and he has shown a consistent ability, willingness, and prerogative to give people the business.
Right.
And he's been fairly tame tonight, right? Like when he's been putting a lot of chips in the middle, he's just had it.
Right.
But that is not the JC that we know and love. So anyone who knows, sort of JC's MO is going to know that, like, this dude is going to put in a lot of bluffs, and you should be ready to strap in,
Right.
Strap in the seatbelt and get ready to tango. JC here is going to flop second pair with an up and down straight draw. Big Daddy Chaz has the best hand.
Top pair. Makes sense.
But yeah, we're going to check through. Check through
Gonna hold
once
up.
again. Backdoor diamonds comes in. No player with a diamond, and Chaz is just going to win it showdown. Oh, never
Oh,
mind.
he's going to go for...
Yeah, it was about a 25 from JC. Thin value.
Oh.
And Chaz lifts him up with the top pair. Which I think is totally reasonable. But the check through on the turn, also actually reasonable from
Right.
Chaz. Yeah.
4 to straight. I imagine he'd bet some turns, but probably not that one.
Carlo Avarello in the chat. Hey, what's going on, man? We got... Oh, hey, will you grab random assortment? Yeah, thanks. All right. David Pratt says it means motive and opportunity. That's a reference to something that I'm not particularly privy to at the moment. You can update me or not. Lucrative going to limp the king tray suited. JC wakes up with 2 black aces once again. Gonna make a raise to 50, and Lucrative is like, all right, I guess I need to see a flop. I put 10 bucks in here already. Doesn't want to see a king. Doesn't find a king. Does find 2 backdoors and 1 overcard to the board. Checks it over. JC should continue here. Somewhere in the ballpark of 75 is what I was going to say. Does go for the 100. Says if you have anything, 100 isn't going to get you to fold. And let's build this pot up while I have aces. His opponent, luckily, whiffed. Was able to just get out of there. Oh, David Pratt, when you were describing JC's MO. Oh, MO? No, MO does not mean motive and opportunity. MO means modus operandi. But you're probably just fucking with me, or that's a quote from something.
Did she have the kid while she was in college? She had you? I guess you're not. You're the kid. Did you have it? Oh, yeah, that's me.
Pitamata says hi. Hey, what's going on? If anybody is new to the broadcast and is not subscribed to the channel, please do hit that subscribe button. And also, if you would hit the like button, we would appreciate it very much. We're up to 169 likes. If we can get to 200, I will have another Topo Chico. David Pratt says, modus operandi, I am messing with you. Well, thank you. Mean and ornery. There you go. David Grant gets it. AJ here with a couple of 9s. No heart. Slicer going to outflop his opponent. And AJ will take one more peek, say, I don't have the 9 of hearts. I will fold, and does avoid any further damage. Slicer will take that pot. We'll move right along. Looking at the chip counts, JC up at the top, 14.3K. Pierre not too far behind. Slicer at 10K as well. Tommy, Big Daddy Chaz, all at the top, and then AJ, 5K, everybody else down below. Let me grab the door here for my man Austin. One sec.
I mean, I'm cheap. I'd pay to watch for sure.
It's really more exciting to watch when you have a
All right.
I would do that for sure.
I was thinking about
David Pratt said, you said something like ability, desire, and position. That sounds like exactly the words that I speak all the time.
That seems like a good spot.
Means, motive, and opportunity. All right, David Pratt is really just catching me all up to speed here on the NCIS lingo. Thank you very much for that.
Ornery. That's a good word, David Grant.
Mean and ornery. Yeah, I like that one. Lucrative here is very lukewarm. I don't know. There was a word and things, but ace-10, he's just going to call. That's basically what happened. JC going to raise with 2 Judies. And Pierre going to put in the first. It's not even a 4-bet. I guess it's just a 3-bet because we had some limps up front. So 3-bet, 450.
JC going nowhere. And
Perfect.
flop.
Perfect hand to flat in position. A couple of jacks. So many people hate it, and they're like, oh, I hate jacks. Jacks suck, blah, blah, blah. But, like, jacks are a great hand. You don't love to see the king, but jacks are in front, and he's in position. So even when Pierre fires out for what looks to be 400 here, 300,
Right.
you just make an easy call in position.
Yeah, I think a lot of people feel like that, like, oh, like, I hate jacks, I hate ace-king kind of deal.
No.
But, you know, the hands are so strong, and, like, even if you see overcards, your opponent is always going to have the overcard, right? When you think about, like, the hands in your opponent's range, et cetera, they're going to have a lot more hands, sort of like what Pierre hands has as well, and you're going to be able to have a lot of equity in those pots that you get in.
I'm a little bit surprised that Pierre didn't double barrel the turn. He doesn't have the nut advantage on the 7-5-4 there, but I feel like the king-high board with the ace and the queen in hand, like, the ace-queen is honestly one of the best bluffing hands on king-high boards, especially disconnected king-high boards where it's the single king and then 2 smaller cards. Ace-queen is just, like, one of your best bluffing hands.
Do you want to explain why that is the case?
Specifically because you are going to have all of the ace-king and king-queen combos that involve those cards.
Right.
So you holding them means that your opponent can't hold them. If your opponent can't hold them, then they can't be, quote-unquote, blocking your best hands.
Right.
So you have one of the best hands to continue sort of telling the story of I do have the best hand because, like, I have an ace of clubs that could have a king with it, and I have a queen of clubs that could have a king with it, right? And at the same time, I just have ace high, right? And I can put a lot of pressure on your middling hands. Like, obviously, jacks are probably just too high up in the range to fold to too much. I mean, I guess it depends on the aggression, but if that was a triple barrel, like 1/3 on the flop, 3/4 on the turn, and then a full pot on the river, like, jacks are not loving it.
Right. Right.
Right? And then something even weaker than that, like, I don't know, I guess everything was sort of connecty. It was like pocket eights was like the hand that could have, like, easily continued on the turn and then gotten to the river and been like, oh God, do I want to call a full pot size bet here? Probably not. So anyways, I'm just saying ace queen is a good bluffing candidate. Because a hand like 10 jack is not a good bluffing candidate, right? Because while you could say to yourself, like, I block jacks, I block 10s, which is, like, helpful to me in terms of my opponent having a continue hand.
Right.
When they call you on the flop and then you bet the turn and they call you again, right? Like, now you're getting to the point where it's like your blocking doesn't become relevant anymore.
Right.
Whereas
For
when
sure.
you have the pre-flop lead, you have ace king and your opponent doesn't, and you both have king queens, but you have a queen.
Right.
So you block your opponent from having king queen. So
Right.
you can continue across multiple streets
Right.
with a hand like ace queen, where you couldn't with jack 10. Like, you'd have to give up on the river after you fired 2 streets with jack 10 and your opponent called both times. You'd be like, I got to shut this shit down.
Right.
But
And I
ace
think-
queen, you could still do it.
For sure. And I think especially against a player like JC,
who I'm sure Pierre has played with a decent amount. Like, Ace King becomes pretty discounted in JC's range because that would be a 4-bet a lot of the time. And so that makes it maybe even a better bluffing hand there.
Absolutely.
Because against a lot of, like, maybe against some other players, you think they're not going to always be 4-betting Ace King there. But given JC's tendency to be aggressive, I think that he's going to have, you know, a non-trivial amount of Ace King in his range that he 4-bets. And so it makes it
for
even
sure.
better. So I think it, again, surprising. But also, like, that also works for, like, for JC where he can have so much random, maybe so much random stuff in his range that Pierre is just like, okay, whatever. I just give up because this board is just not that great. Because he became pretty connected on the turn.
Yeah.
Lucrative with a set of 7s here. And a bunch of mystery hands, but that seems to be doing the best right now.
Yeah, set of 7s, not bad. However, with the 2 diamonds and the 6-7 connectedness, right? Like, a set of 7s doesn't feel inclined to go for some sort of, like, all-in pot size continue here. Oh, Pierre is the
Pierre
initial
raised
better here.
Yeah, Pierre raised the. It's a bet and a raise, and then a shove. Right.
Okay, lucrative is
And
just going
so
to get
this
it
is
in.
just, a spot where I think you just are going to run into queens a lot. Maybe not.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think your opponent can have a lot of combo draws, which you're also not doing great against, but you are going to have outs if they get there on the turn, right?
For sure.
So I don't hate this. I honestly don't, especially with the 1.4K and the size of the pot already.
Right.
I think lucrative is perfectly fine getting it in here. He is just dead,
He's dead.
and
Just
that is
sucky.
going to happen. You said that you're going to run into queens a lot. I think you're going to run into queens enough of the time that it sucks and you're dead and that's awful.
Right.
And then the rest of the time it's going to be against a hand that is going to have a
just
ton of equity.
Not doing that great. Yeah.
But at the same time, like, he didn't have very many chips.
Right.
And I think
I mean,
second set is good
folding
enough.
middle set is always like, Yeah.
That's a cooler. Like, let's be honest, that's a cooler.
For sure.
But if his opponent had 8-9 of diamonds, right? Like, that would have been a cooler if he just got drawn
Right.
out on as
It's
well.
just,
it's just the way.
I think
PLO
Pierre.
goes.
I think Lexo potted and then Pierre raised after checking, right? And so like that feels pretty nutted. Like
Yeah.
you said, so it's either gonna be like really really good draws like diamond draws or some wrap or whatever or queens.
Yeah.
Super
Yeah.
fun for him.
No,
like you
it's-
said, like with his stack, like I don't know.
I think
kind
if
of a
he has
cooler.
5K, I think a fold
Yeah.
is totally reasonable.
For sure. But with 1.4, it's just sort of like, it's just a spot where it's like I hate PLO.
We've got the, you know, I haven't gotten trolled with the Rip Doyle in a while, but we're getting hit with it.
Lexo wakes up with Ace King off on the button.
It was the White Sox at one point.
Raise it up.
It was the Cougars.
Good for you guys, man. Bring in the old troll back.
AJ with the
One
call.
day that troll
Chazin.
will be real.
It was at one point, and then it was the Marlins. No, I don't know who it is. But our only break was we got like 15 minutes to eat a hot dog and then like some fries.
Pretty
And then
interesting
we had,
flopper.
That was it. And I did that for like a summer, and I was like, is this how the work?
Yeah, certainly AJ in a position to potentially call one street at least.
Right.
It's not too bad. I mean,
Does go for the check call. 5 of spades on the turn. Doesn't change the dynamics for either of these players' holdings. Lexo can continue for value.
Oh,
I do
we're gonna
think
go check
a
that fold.
size up here
Right.
to 300. I go shade over that 325, and now AJ. He doesn't have a spade. He could think of continuing, and he will.
Going to. Interesting.
I think this is fine. I think a solver would generally tend to agree with this against a opponent with a very balanced range. Now with the ace of hearts on the end, you're definitely going to have to shut this down.
Right.
AJ will check it over. Lex O should go for, I want to see half pot here, just to try to get, to make sure that King 10 doesn't fold.
Sure.
Right, you don't want to go too big and
Right.
scare off somebody, but like King 10 shouldn't fold to even 3/4 or 2/3, but he is going to go for the 400, and I like that. I think that's it's just not going to work in this instance, and it's maybe even a little bit small to get. Like King 10 would pay more than that, right? But I like the idea. I like the idea.
I think unfortunately for Lexo there, that's a spot where you obviously have to value it, but you're just not going to get called by that much there, right? Like he's going to have a lot of pins like that he gives up on.
Yeah. I think I would have preferred, if you're going to bet smaller, go like 275. Right?
Yeah.
Like if you're going to go smaller, then you should target the jacks.
Right.
But targeting the jacks with 400 isn't going to work. You got to hit them for the 275 or 250.
Right.
But if you're going to try to get like King 10 to pay you, then you go for the 2/3.
Right.
600, 650.
I think that's another like great part of the game that's very nuanced, is like you have to really understand what you're targeting and trying to get value from when you bet there is Lexo. And you know, like you said, there's sort of like two routes you can take, and you just kind of chose something in the middle there, right? And it's sort of like doesn't accomplish either the way that you would want it to.
And so, I used to do that all the time, and I still do make this mistake on occasion, but it's something that I'm much more aware of, and it's exactly what you said, where in your mind, whether you're conscious of it or not, by having some experience with the game, you recognize that there's your big sizing, and you're like, oh, I could go big.
Right.
And then some part of you is like, but like top 2 pair here, it looks too scary for a lot of my opponent's hands. And then you're like, I could check back because my opponent could have Queen 10. Right? Which is a check, which is bet 0. You got bet 0 and bet a lot. And then you're like, yeah, but I don't want to do either of those. And then you just like weirdly bet in between. And like then it fucks it all up, right? Like just like you said, where it doesn't actually accomplish anything. And I think that's just sort of our human baseline. Our default is to like identify the boundaries and then pick something in the middle. But in poker, that doesn't work very often.
Right, exactly. And then there's like the aspect, like you said, where you're really like sitting at the table and you're like, yes, I just rivered top 2. And then it's like, okay, like I need a bet. And then it's like, oh no, but I'm not going to get called by that much. But I still want to like get some money in the pot. So you're like, okay, I'm just going to bet this much. And maybe you didn't think it through as much as you would have if you have the luxury of just sitting here, seeing the cards and being like, yeah. You know?
Yeah.
Really so.
But I think the number one thing here is just a tip with Aaron is if you find yourself making decisions in this game that frequently lead to results that you kind of don't really know if you won or lost at the end of it. Like, oh God, I almost used a word that I hate, irregardless. Regardless of the outcome, right? Like, let's say you won the hand, but you kind of feel like, did I win?
Yeah.
Right? Because it feels like maybe you lost value or something.
Right.
Instead of just sort of being like, shrug, move along, think about it. Be like, what was I trying to accomplish? Did my bet actually do that, right? Like, go back, reverse time, go through the hand again, at least on the last street of action, where the real decision was made of like whether you won or lost the hand, or won or lost value. And ask yourself, did I make the appropriate bet size for what I was trying to accomplish? And did I accomplish what I wanted to, right? And like go through that iterative loop of like, and had I bet more, what would have happened? Had I bet less, what would have happened? You know, you may not always have the information, but for example, I've had it plenty of times where I have gone for a large polarizing river bet, for example. And my opponent has gone into the tank, and they've sat there for like 2 minutes, hemmed and hawed, you know, looked up at the ceiling, right? Like they're in an agonizing spot, and then they folded. And I'm like, I may not have gotten the full value there if I'm going for value, right? But I sure as hell picked really close to the right spot where that dude was like, he had to think about it. The dude spent 2 minutes in the tank trying to figure it out. If I'd bet just a tiny little bit less, probably would have found the call, and that would have been great for me. And you can use that to just adjust to just a tiny little bit in the future. But if you find yourself like betting an amount and your opponent snap calls you, and you're going for value, like oh shit, like how much more could I have bet, right? Like you gotta think about that. Or if they think about it, they roll their eyes and they fold, and they're like, fuck. I mean, I guess you just have it. Like, now you know you bet too much, right?
Right.
Like, on all that stuff. You can just bank that information, turn it into actionable whatever,
For sure.
information for the future.
Got an interesting hint here. Slicer, that's about 2/3 it looks like on the turn, with a mystery hand.
And Pierre with
Pierre's
flopped.
gonna make the call.
Flop
Interesting.
second pair turned gutter. Yeah, it's one of those hands where he's too far up in his range to fold, and he's gonna
he
drill it
thinks
here on the end.
Wow, and I was gonna say, like for Pierre too, like I think there's a lot of cards on the river that he can credibly represent as if he wants to bluff the river here, and so I think the call makes a lot of sense.
Well, I think that even if he didn't hit the 8 on the end,
Right.
not having any hearts in his hand,
Right.
and a lot of people are like, oh, but there's an ace out there. Like, how scary is that? It's like, you have the second pair on the board, and you're not always going to have an ace. If you don't always have an ace, then what the hell do you have for
Right.
your next best set of hands? Guess what? A lot of those are 7s, and a 7 with a gut shot straight draw is a fantastic hand. Not blocking the hearts,
Right.
it's a great hand. The fact that he backs into the straight is just the icing on the cake.
Right. And
Right,
This
if
is
this-
such a gross spot for a slicer if he has like ace king here, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because like, you know, Pierre's gonna have so many bluffs in this spot. He's gonna overbet, right? And I think that makes a lot of sense with it. And it's just like a slicer. He's running into the same spot again here, but I guess here he just snap folds.
Yeah, I think
Maybe he's just
Slicer may have actually had the hearts, because I
Right.
think if
Yeah, I think
Slicer
that
has
makes
ace king, he actually goes for a block bet.
Yeah.
Well, maybe
Yeah.
not with the front door hearts. I don't know. That one starts to get a little bit borderline between check and block bet, but I feel like a lot of the aces don't necessarily benefit from a check fold, right?
yeah.
And if
for
he had,
sure.
like, ace king shouldn't have check folded that quickly, so I don't think he had that.
No, I don't think he had ace king either. But
Yeah.
I was just saying, you know, in theory, if he has ace king there, it's just such a gross river because like your opponent is gonna find a lot of hands to do that with, right? That either have the straight or don't have the straight.
The sick thing about the
But-
block bet there is that if you balance it with your missed hearts, and your opponent has,
Pierre just wakes up with aces. That's nice. But anyways,
I mean, I don't actually think what I was going to say is that interesting, because the front door flush draw it actually makes the block bet not as effective. Anyways, it's fun. It's fun when you use the block bet and it works. That's basically the gist of it.
for sure.
And
Oh,
yeah,
he just gets a revenge 3-bet from Slicer immediately with king 5. And he just has aces.
yeah, and he's gonna hit him with the 4.
Oh, and Slicer's just gonna.
Yeah, but this is the value of 3-betting with hands like king 5 suited.
Right.
Small blind versus hijack open is that when you get a fold, it feels really good, and if you get 4-bet, you just easily fold.
Right,
Like,
for sure.
nobody is married to king 5 of clubs except for Gordon. And
Oh, man.
Gordon would call and win because
Right.
it's the nuts, but, you know. Oh, the 3-minute Taco Bell degen warning has arrived,
There we go.
as per David Pratt in the chat, with a cat, and perhaps wearing a hat. It's time to check my points. All right, I'm going first this time so that I can't get sniped, because I choose when I go.
Slicer with ace king on the button, raises it up to 40. Someone's gonna come in for the call of the big blind.
Brilliant flop for both players.
Check. King on the turn.
Jack on the
Jack
turn.
on the turn. Tillman picks up a flush draw. And Slicer is probably like, I hate my life right now. Let's call.
Yeah, this is a spot where I think you're perfectly fine continuing. Your opponent is going to bet things like turn spades.
Tillman gets one through.
Yeah, bets the
Let's
75 there. Slicer with a quick and sort of frustrated fold. And I think it's fine. I think especially against this player in particular, ace-king highs is not going to be good enough to make that call. But I think there's very clearly also just a smidge of tilt creeping in over the course of these last few hands. Slicer has just sort of gotten good hands, but lost. So
Gordon in the chat should have jammed King 5 club.
oh God, Nick H rolled a 1. Sorry, buddy.
I'm trying to get account of that right now.
Gordon Granger is in the chat. He says, should have
said,
jammed
"Should've
the
jammed
King
it."
5. There we go. So glad that Gordon was here to hear me talking about him and the King 5 of clubs. Shout out to Gordon G. All right, well, the 1 and the 9 are gone. I'm 100% rolling a 99. I'm getting the gamble 100 ready. What I think we can gamble at what 9 or 8:30? Is that what it is? I don't know. My chat doesn't go back that far.
David Pratt will probably know. I'm sure you can ask.
Well, it was like 9:27 last time, but then he got himself put in chat jail with his all caps nonsense, and then we didn't actually gamble till a little bit later. So I think I have to wait till 8:30.
Someone asked, where did Lexo go? I think he's
No, he's there.
still in the 1 seat. So to answer that question,
Yeah.
he's
No,
still here. I think he just put a hoodie on.
Yeah, he
got
may
a
have
little chilly.
stepped away from the table momentarily, but we do have a new player joining us, however, as we've got Josh in the 4 seat. Josh is a great guy, dude. I
really like playing with Josh.
Yeah, I love playing with Josh, and he, I swear, every time he and I have some sort of like back and forth like conversation interaction, it reminds me of high school. Like, I don't mean that because like Josh is like younger or whatever. It's just the way that, like he's just got this like super chill, and he looks at you and he kind of slouches down a little and he smiles and he laughs, and it just reminds me of all of my stoner friends in high school. I love Josh. I love him. Just a spinning image of my fucking high school stoner friends. All right, unleashing the gamble. Get wrecked, Mr. Pratt. All of the T-bell shall be mine. Come on. I might have gambled just too early. I might not be
Andres
ready.
Diaz asks, how do I get into one of these games, I think. If
No.
you're interested in playing on the stream, go ahead and give a call to TCH Austin, and we'll get you on one of these lists. We got an interesting hand going on here.
We do. Also.
We got a 3-bet from Chaz with Ace Queen, and a call from AJ with Jacks. And I think AJ is in a spot where he has to call one here. That's exactly what he's going to do. And a 4 on the turn doesn't change much. I assume Chaz is going to go for about 2/3 here, and AJ probably forced to continue again, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and this is a spot where all of the ace-kings of the world are going to continue betting on the turn and then feel obligated to go blasty on the river. So AJ is sort of playing against all of the overpairs, the ace-queens, and the ace-kings. And there's a lot of ace-kings. There's 16 combos of ace-king that he unblocks.
Right.
So, yeah, he's going to be up against ace-queen. And then the overpairs, an equal sort of distribution.
Right.
But 2 jacks just can't really let these jacks go for 625 on the turn. Now, depending on this river sizing, Chaz here with the ace-queen, I suspect he's going to go pretty chunky, 1.5K, maybe something like that. Yeah, it looks like 1450.
And this is like really like the annoying thing about queen high boards and 3-bet pots as AJ, right? Because like if it was, then he's just gonna snap call and he's gonna get you on the bad news, and that's sort of like a mini cooler here. But this is sort of the gross thing for AJ in the 3-bet pot is that if the flop had come ace or king high, Chaz has probably a lot more of that in his 3-betting range, but like he just doesn't have
that many queens that are gonna go 3 suits there, and he has so many hands that are gonna, so many combos hands that are gonna bluff, like ace king, probably all of the ace jacks there, and
That's the
maybe
one
jack
drawback
nine
of having
suited,
2
et cetera,
jacks.
et cetera, right?
Is that you block the shit out of king jack and ace jack,
Right.
and that is that's the part of the bluffing range that sort of pushes things to the other side,
Right,
where it's
for
like
sure.
now you've actually got enough good calls. It's almost like 10-9 would be a better call.
Right. This is like sort of what
Yeah.
we talked about earlier for sure. But like at the same time, like, you know, you reduce those combos by half, but still like there's still.
Oh, fuck you, David. Damn it. All right, continue. Continue.
Wow, he rolled a 98.
I know, man.
Oh my God,
Seriously.
that's so gross. Oh my goodness.
Sorry to interrupt with that, but
David
God damn
Pratt
it.
just running good in the chat.
Oh, this
Oh
clown.
man,
Damn it.
I'm invincible.
I rolled a 60. I felt pretty good about
That's
it.
pretty good. Wow.
Oh, and Tilton gets a 93, too. Well, at least I didn't roll after him and get a 93 to his 98.
Oh,
I would have
man.
felt worse about that, I
That's
guess.
pretty gnarly.
AJ here with a couple of 10s is going to
After the mini cooler.
make the call pre. The open from JC. Flops 9 high. AJ is like, cool, we're in this spot again where I just check call and lose all my money. But this time he is ahead. Needs to fade a couple of overcards and can't do it because
Oh my
there's
goodness,
Jack
he is not running
right
good.
on the turn.
But here, like, this is something like we talked about earlier with, like, how the game's going, whatever, how you're feeling. Like, maybe earlier in the game, if AJ is doing all right, winning, maybe this is a hand that he 3-bets. And I don't know how JC responds, but the hand plays out totally differently, right? But then he just sort of, like, what happened?
I guess we made it to a river that was an unfavorable card
Oh, right. Oh,
for
okay.
JC.
Hey.
Oh, we went check,
AJ
check on
gets
the
there.
river.
Check, yeah.
AJ check called the turn and then check, check, river.
Yeah.
And the 10s got bailed out in this lovely frozen image from yesterday for all of you to enjoy as AJ scoops that last pot. And let's see here. David Pratt here in the chat says that's $20 of fine Scotch whiskey that I'm buying you. Well, I'm contributing $20 towards it, Michael Tilton, not a $20 fine Scotch whiskey. But let me know in the chat, Pratt, what is your favorite fine Scotch whiskey? I'm curious. I want to know if we're in the same vicinity of what we appreciate. Do you appreciate fine Scotch whiskeys, good sir?
I do. I'm not super well versed in them.
Okay.
I actually think I like the smoky ones a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And then I like a lot of the, I know they're not Scotch. For everyone who can't see, I did a quote unquote for this. But I like a lot of Japanese whiskeys too.
Oh, so single malts perhaps, but
Right.
maybe
yeah,
from
I
Japan.
like Oban a lot.
Which one?
Oban.
Oban. Okay.
Which is a single malt, but
The Yamazaki. Have you
I
had
like
that?
that one. That one's great. Like,
The 18 years quite good. I think the 12 years maybe a little bit overrated, but the 18 years quite good.
Right.
And then what's the other Suntory?
yeah, I like that one as well. But I'm not a piggy drinker, so sort of
Okay.
whatever does it for me.
Josh here gonna go
Getting
for
a
the
little
2-bet
Risky.
check raise here on this turn.
I don't know if I love his hand, but I like the heart.
It's very speculative. It's basically like if you have a 1-pair holding with a gut shot or something, you're gonna feel like not great, or 2 pairs isn't gonna feel great, but for that size, it's also 2 pairs isn't gonna fold. Like King Jack isn't gonna fold.
Right. Also,
Jack
the
9
thing is,
isn't
like,
gonna fold.
when you're when it goes check check and your opponent decides to bet that turn, like, I think you have to think about like why is he now incentivized to bet this turn when he checked like a flop that's more favorable for his range to begin with, right? And then like raising someone in that spot with pretty much guaranteed 0 equities.
Well, that's the nice thing is that if your opponent continues, you're just done, right? Like you either win or you've lost. And there's, so some people will make strange raises with like Jack-9 there or something.
Sure.
And then it's like, this is bad.
Right,
because now you've raised with a hand that doesn't just give up
Sure,
on most rivers, right? And
Yeah.
like, now
Yeah.
that's way worse of a
No,
mistake
I
than
agree
doing it with
that.
7-5
I
with
agree
no
with that
spade.
for sure. Like, if you want to just like, but if you're gonna, if you're gonna bluff with 7-5 there, you're just gonna be bluffing like way too much, right? But I
Ollie
definitely
Giles
agree with
Sr. says that he comments in many streams, and this one he never gets a response. Well, I'm going to give you a response, sir. What is your question? I'm going to scroll back up until I find it, and I'm going to make damn sure that you get the response. Can you see this? Yes, I can. I'm waiting for the important bit. Here we go.
that. David Pratt says Oban too, so we got a lot in common.
Ollie, I'm just making sure that you know that I see you and that I appreciate you. And I don't know if I missed something really important. If I did, please let me know in the chat once more what it is that you wanted to know. But we appreciate you, man.
Wow, Slicer with top pair versus Tillman set here. Tillman's gonna click it, and Slicer now. I don't know how much he's played with Tillman, but this is sort of a gross spot.
Yeah, the problem
Slicer
for
just-
Slicer is that in a vacuum, his hand is too good to fold.
He just I don't know if
Against-
he's played with Tillman enough. So.
Yeah, if you
And
have
just like such a safe river, like,
yeah.
and he's just gonna bet such a size to get paid there, and I really like that bet actually from Tillman, and Slicer's gonna like that.
Nice.
Good fold from Slicer.
Slicer, let's
Really
it
good
go.
fold. But like that's a gross spot.
All right. We got some stuff in the chat that I need to pay attention to. First things first is David Pratt and his comments about Scotch. Everyday Scotch, Macallan 12 or Oban, okay? For relaxing time, it's Suntory time. Very good.
We covered all of that, David.
And then says, don't discount Lagavulin either. Lagavulin is my favorite.
That's a good one.
Of all the scotches, that one is my favorite. Okay, second up, Ollie Giles Sr. I plan to head to Texas to play. Which TCH is best? Okay. If you want to play on a live stream, it depends on the stakes that you're willing to play. If you want to play small stakes, like 2-5, then you can play on either TCH Dallas or TCH Austin. If you want to play large stakes, like mid to large stakes, whatever, this game where you're buying in for 5 to 10K, then you can come play here in Austin on Monday night. And if you want to play the nosebleeds, you want to buy in for 20K, then you should play in Dallas on Tuesday. So that sort of breaks it down for you. I hope that answered your question. If you have anything further, please do drop it in the chat. Ironbite AD says, you will never be a 60 out of 100 in my book, and the 98 bust just means that's how many problems Pratt has. Well, thanks, man. Appreciate you, buddy. Yeah, I'm going to get him at some point. He's got a little bit of Scotch money going to him, which I am not upset about. Okay, finally, JTN1968 dropping a $10 super chat. He says, poker and AA Ron's smart-ass comments always make working on Monday nights much easier. Who is AA Ron's partner in crime tonight? And remember, no shredding me over my play on TCHLive on Sunday. Well, we're definitely doing that. But my partner in crime tonight is
Austin, and we gotta thank you for that super chat. We appreciate it. Having fun in the booth. Glad we can make work a little more enjoyable for you.
hell yeah, buddy. Paul Ride, thank you very much for subscribing. Welcome to the team.
We skimmed over Pratt's comment of I have 102.3 problems now due to inflation, which I laughed at. That's pretty funny.
Yeah, dude. It's not great.
Yeah, inflation is a thing, for sure.
It's a real fucking thing these days. It'll be an ever more real thing each and every decade that goes by. I think 10 years from now, people are going to laugh at the inflation that we dealt with. So now's the time to invest in things that will weather the storm.
Yep, always a good thing to do. Invest in things that will go up.
Slicer here, going to come in for the squeeze out of the big blind with the 10-7 suited. I like this a lot, as this was a limped pot to him. JC, though, recognizing sort of what Slicer is up to. Going to take the king-queen and not 3-bet it, which I think is wise. It's going to leave a lot of Slicer's weaker squeezes in. Again, this can be manipulated or not manipulated, but influenced by us being able to see the cards. But I also do think that Slicer is going to have some weaker squeezes. JC is going to do well to keep those in, whereas if he 3-bets, he's just going to fold them out. AJ is incentivized to come along for the price he got, and we get a nice queen high flop for JC.
And probably just going to bet and take this one down.
Indeed.
And that's the end of that. And Slicer's rough night continues.
So let me ask you this. With inflation and such, do you have an investment strategy that you are sort of implementing? Do you have something that you're paying attention to, or is it kind of nothing whatsoever, or somewhere in between? Where are you at? You don't have to give specifics if you don't want to. That's fine.
I was going to say, like, I don't do anything specifically because of it. I bought a bunch of crypto recently, so we'll see how that goes.
Hopefully today and not a week ago.
Recently being like 4 months ago.
Oh, okay. So you got in.
Just like sitting and letting it,
yeah.
whatever.
You're hodling. Okay.
Yeah. And then we'll see. I mean, there's like, I don't think that I do enough like studying or research about it to really like make any sort of like sophisticated sort of play. So most of the time I'll just throw it in. Oh, and 4s finally flops a set. It's about time.
Yeah.
And good for Lexo.
They just had to keep trying, and Lexo does indeed.
And he's got the field drawing.
Yeah, the problem for him is now if his opponents improve, it's to a better hand.
Like a lot of hands now improve. Not to. Did he check?
Yeah. He was the man in the middle, so he checked the flop. Now here on the turn, JC going to lead out with the turned
and he's gonna
club flush draw.
Call, and he's going to get raised by Josh, who's in the hand.
Yeah, Josh in the hand, but cards not.
Don't know what he has.
Oh, Josh has a turned club flush. Oh, no. Oh, no.
Oh, wow.
Lexo is
Lexo's
in the crosshairs for another coolering.
Wow.
As Pierre gets admonished
And
for
I
having
think-
his phone at the table, and the look on his face tells us.
Oh, and JC comes in for the raise. Wow, and Lexo can get away from this now, which is so gross, right?
Oh, my good
And
lord.
just not a good spot. And now Josh with 3K. I mean, I don't see how he can not just rip it here, right?
Yeah, I mean, so here's the thing. King high flush is obviously dead to the ace high flush, but
I would rather have the king eye to rip here, right? Because, like, I don't know. What are you going to, like, I don't know.
you're in position.
I guess you could just call.
Yeah. He is going to make the call. JC. Stacked pot ratio just a shade over 1 does not improve his hand to a superior flush. Does make a bottom pair of deuces. And has this little fucking chipmunk ass grin on his face, and he piles it in like, well.
Snap called here.
Yeah, Josh is going to get the full dub here. You can't fold the king high flush. It is not possible.
Yeah.
He does make the call, reluctantly saying, if you just got it, I guess you just got it. But he does, in fact, not have it.
Wow.
And
nice hand for Josh.
Josh is going to win a 7.1K pot. Good job, Josh. And I love, that's the look on his face that just exemplifies what I was saying before. You know, he just kind of like shrugs and he's like, I don't know. I mean, I guess I lose sometimes, but I call, you know?
Oh,
like
yeah, for sure, for sure.
The spitting image of my buddies in high school. Where he's just like, I don't know, man. I guess
man.
I just got to
If
call.
you got it, good for you,
Yeah,
right? And like,
call.
he's always a great sport at the table and all of that. So like, I'm sure if JC had flipped over and no clubs there, he'd just be like, nice hand, man, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh man, nice pot for Josh.
Oh, man. Ahmed Sayed says, hi, all from Egypt. What's going on, man? Thanks for joining us. Appreciate you. Kevin and Sarah Groddick, JC's grin is the best. Hell yeah, dude. No, when he gives you the business and just smiles at you, like, you're just like, what the fuck is going on, man? We got 198 likes on the counter. I know we can get 2 more. 2 is all we need to get over 200. Please help us out if you haven't already.
Right.
Obliterate the like button for us, please. We appreciate you so much.
We do. We really do. Also, not to brush over that fold from Lexo. I mean, like, it may seem trivial to us sitting here because we can see the cards and stuff. But there's a lot of people who flop a set and just can't fold it. So that's a nice fold from Lexo.
There's a huge difference between folding that hand multi-way with bet, call, you as the caller, raise, and re-raise, right?
yeah.
Like,
100%.
absolutely folding that makes a lot of sense. But
No.
I've seen people, and I'm not trying to shit
Right.
on what you said. What you said is absolutely right. There are people, though, that I have seen where they have bet with their set, gotten raised, and then fold. And it's like folding a set in a heads-up pot to a single raise, even if it's 2 bets, is usually
Right.
not the correct play.
Right. But, like, shout out to him for recognizing that, like, he's just in a spot where, especially given that turn card, it's a spot where, like, he's just going to be behind, like, always, pretty much. And
Yeah.
he still has one person to act behind him, and it's just not super fun. And, like, you know, especially given how his night has been going, like, he's not been running super well. It's a spot where, like, maybe you're just tilt, be like, all right, whatever. I'm just
Yeah.
going to shove. Like, hopefully he's bluffing.
Or hopefully I catch up
yeah,
or
hopefully
whatever.
yeah, right.
Now, and there's always a time and a place to take a set with 30% equity going into the river and be like, I actually just kind of have to put all my money in here because I'm getting 30+% pot equity. But, yeah, that certainly was not the case in that hand, and it was a good fold. Josh here. The initial raiser getting 3 bet here. Does have the ace-10 suited. Will be playing this one out of position,
Right.
but ace-10 suited is just a little too strong to fold, so I do think the call is in order. The 4 bets there, I think with the ace-10 offsuit variety, would be a much more likely candidate.
Sure.
Either a fold or a 4 bet.
Right.
Ace-10 suited, slam dunk call. Is going to brick this flop about as hard as possible and can't fold any faster than that, which I agree with. JC just gets to win with all of his hands.
Right.
I thought you said your hand was sucking. I was like,
All right, so you got a little bit of money into the cryptos.
I like the cryptos. We'll
Yeah.
see. I mean,
No,
like, everybody likes the cryptos.
I generally think the cryptos do have a lot of leg left. So I don't know. It's an interesting thing, and I don't want to get down into the rabbit hole too far, but I just want to give my Reader's Digest piece, which is that there's like one side that thinks that cryptos are going to take it over, like take everything over. It's like it's going to replace money.
Right.
Then you have the other side of the coin, which is like people that think that crypto is worthless because it's not backed by any government and it can be hacked and whatever, right? Like,
Sure.
So you basically got your 2 ends of the spectrum.
Right. That was a misread. It said that Slicer folded jacks, I think. But
Oh.
that is
Obviously not doing
a
that.
card read error. Yeah. Anyways.
And then you have the middle of the road camps that sort of oscillate between the people that are like, no, crypto has a lot of value. There's a lot of things that are going to go down sort of the crypto line,
Right.
whether it be traditional finance or alt finance. And there's a lot of value there. And then there's the other side, just the other side that doesn't just totally shit on it. That's like, no, there's too much value there. There's too much value, in fact, that the fiat currency controllers, governments, central banks, aren't going to allow it to displace them. And they're going to regulate it away, which is what we've seen in Morocco and China and other places, right, where they've just outlawed it and now you just can't do it, right?
Yeah.
And you can't participate. So I don't know. It's completely wide open. I don't know where
We'll
we're
see.
going.
I just
will
think
see.
like a lot of like
Josh will win this hand, as no one else has an incentive to bet.
except him, apparently.
Thin value with the 10, which I think is fair.
That's pretty
It's ambitious, but
Yeah.
for 150, I think that size is actually appropriate to get
Yeah.
paid by an 8.
sure. I think that makes sense. I think this is just a spot though, like with 2 people behind, where it's like if I get check raised here, I hate my life so much. Or if I get raised here, if I get raised here, I hate my life so much that it's not worth going for.
Well, but I think
But
you can
maybe.
just fold. Whereas
Yeah,
if you
maybe.
check and they bet big, do you really want to call?
You're right. Yeah, that's
I think
true.
you'd rather bet thin for value
Yeah.
and fold to a raise than check and fold to a big bet.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, for sure. But I think like we're in a situation right now where like the world's going to change so much in the next 5 to 10 years that like who knows what will happen, right? But if it does end up happening in a certain way, then crypto is a good bet, and if it doesn't, then who knows? But like, I think, yeah, we're gonna see a lot of things change, right? With all of the sort of like automation and advancing technology and all of that. So
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see what happens.
We definitely will. One thing that I know for sure is that governments and central banks will not allow themselves to be displaced.
Oh yeah,
They have
for
a
sure.
monopoly
For sure. Yeah.
over traditional banking, and alt banking will not displace them. Like
Right.
the system that exists will not be
Right.
displaced. And therefore, if crypto becomes a significant part of our future economic scenario as human beings, it will only do so within their purview.
Right.
And I mean, this is sort of, the conspiratorial there, but like, there is a system in place, and
No,
the
I
powers that
100%
be
agree
do
with that.
control
like,
the
yeah,
power,
no,
right?
I
So
100% agree with that. I don't foresee like a scenario where like the U.S. ever goes to being like pure like crypto because of that would be insane.
yeah, just like
so
like
insane.
El Salvador, where
Yeah.
like Bitcoin is
Right. But there's
legal
like
tender or something. That won't
there's
happen.
reasons for there's reasons for that, right? That just like the U.S. isn't gonna have, right? Especially given like we're still like the currency that the world is tied to, right? Like it would be so insane, right, for the U.S. to go to something like that. But I just think there's like so many use cases, right,
Yeah.
that like might pop up that we just don't know about, right? Where like,
Yeah.
I mean, look at like, I mean,
They don't know what to do when
it
they're like, what?
is
Huh? What?
potentially maybe just like a massive bubble, but look at the NFT market, right? Is just crazy, right?
Yeah.
And like no matter what your opinion on is it, like the fact is like a lot of people have made a lot of money from it, right?
Yeah.
And that's like almost purely backed by crypto, right?
Yeah.
Like it wouldn't exist if it was something that like people had to
Invest
use
actual physical dollars
in, right?
Yeah.
And so like there's just these things that like if I told you about NFTs 3 years ago, you'd be like,
You'd
dude,
laugh.
what the hell are you talking about?
There are
right?
people that laugh now. I laugh now because it is
no,
ridiculous.
100%. Like
but
you read about it and you're like, what? Right?
Yeah.
And then you go look and you're like, okay, well that just sold for right?
Yeah.
Some exorbitant
somebody
amount.
bought that
For-
digital piece of content for 3 Bitcoin. I
Right.
mean, that's insane.
Yeah, well, it's like,
Yeah.
what is happening, right? But at the same time, like, it's happening, so it exists. So, like, you can either, like, if you're a naysayer forever, like, you might be missing opportunities, right? If you didn't, if you weren't, like, a little more open-minded about it. And, like,
Quite
who
a flop
knows,
we
right?
have here. Let's get back to the poker really quick. AJ here with the AK is going to go ahead and flop the toppest of pairs with the toppest of kickers. Tillman here with AJ's namesake, Ace-Jack, is going to be well behind. Big Daddy Chaz can easily fold as the man in the middle with a couple of deuces, only backdoor draws.
I can't see Tillman doing anything but calling. Oh, he's going to min-click.
Tillman hits him with the min click, and Tillman with the limp call pre.
Oh, and Jazz would have binked.
Chaz would have binked it. My
but
God.
At the same
Quick
time,
check. Yeah, now AJ should go for value, and I think he should go big here. When Tillman hits you with the min-click raise, I think that's announcing that he's got something, and that something is almost always an ace, and
Right.
you beat all of the aces. So hit him for 500 plus, and he does. I love this. Go
Yeah,
AJ.
I like this as well.
And Tillman is...
I don't see how Tillman can really fold here, but
I mean, these are the lines that Tillman gets involved in by playing these sort of strange things with the min clicks and whatever's, is that now, what the hell does he do? Right? Ace-Jack is way too
Right.
strong to fold. I think he's going to get away from it, though. I don't think he should, but
I
he
mean,
is.
it's like a spot for Tillman where, like, if he really understands the meta about how he's perceived by everybody else, right? Like, is AJ really going for value with something that's worse than ace jack here, right?
We're
And is
gonna
he, like,
bluff, yeah.
Really
No.
gonna try and bluff Tillman here, right?
Yeah,
And
no,
so like
so
this,
Tillman-
like if he understands this meta, then this is like really sick, right? Because he just gets
Super
to get away
sick.
from hands like this, right? And now
Yeah.
he's like, okay, like I lost, like in a spot where maybe other people would lose a lot more. Like I only lose my min click here, right? And so
Yeah, actually, Tillman played that like a freaking savant.
it's like pretty sick, right?
That was
You
that
know?
was the so Tillman just executed the raise to find out where I'm at to perfection because he raised, found out where he was at, and then didn't put another dollar into
Right.
the pot.
Which is like you have to be really, really disciplined in that spot if you're going to try and play like that, right? Because like a lot of the times when you go check on the turn and then someone bets the river, you're like, all right, I still have ace jack, still really good, right? And
So Tillman's
pretty sick, man.
Tillman's
Lexo
the
just
poker
folds.
god right there. He just let everybody.
oh, okay, I guess I don't know what
Two
happened.
threes? Did he just fold 2 3s? Is that what it was? Pierre ain't folding a couple of deuces though. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah,
He's gonna raise
I
it up.
think he just fold. Interesting fold. I guess he just really doesn't see value in the low pocket pairs.
Raise 400.
Bitcoin is that? Wait.
Oh no, there's just some funny stuff in the chat.
Bitcoin is-
You always get a lot of polarizing views in the chat. It's almost like what I described of the people that are on either end of it, right? It's like, and if you even just like start to talk about it, then those people come out of the woodworks, and you have some people that just like lose their shit and are like, I'm out, and that's fine. You know what?
David Pratt.
We're gonna
said
talk about a bunch of different things.
A shove would win it for Tillman. Is that about that hand that we just watched?
Mm-hmm.
But
Maybe
the
it
problem
probably
is that
would.
shoving there is sort of like disastrous for this track. I think, right? Like,
Yeah,
do you really
but
wanna
like
be
if we're
turning
gonna
ace-
play the metagame of Tillman, a
but-
shove there is always the nuts.
Sure, but like, you can find better. Maybe, maybe, right? I was gonna say you can find better hands to do that. Like, you don't want to turn your
Ace jack into
ace
a bluff.
jack into a bluff. Like, that seems crazy.
Well, that'd be even sicker
That
than
would be really
men
sick.
clicking
Right,
the 100
right.
and folding
Because
on
that-
the river.
Yeah, that would be really
would be even
sick because
sicker.
like you just put it on AJ and it's like AJ is like, all right, I guess he always has a 3 here, and you're like, okay,
And folds
I
ace
fold
king.
ace king, right?
That would have been even
and that would be
sicker.
really, 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 really sick. But like,
Tillman
that
is going to
seems-
go
man,
hunting
that
in the
seems
hills
so far out there.
for a
I don't know.
deuce. JC with a couple of kings, going to try to keep the heater alive. AJ in here with the Gordon special, king 5 of hearts. No hearts on this board. All spades. JC, the only controller of a spade, and the overpair with no one else even having a pair.
Pretty nice
besides
flop
Tillman.
for JC here.
Yeah.
He's gonna bet. It's gonna take it down most of the time. I'm gonna go for about half pot.
475.
A little less than half pot, and that's gonna win it. Easy game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Peter Mata at Lexo 3-3. I gotta agree with that one. I don't know.
I opened the one I brought. I didn't want to drink your shit.
Yeah, everybody's got a different take on it, and it's fantastic to see how different people react to it. I mean, the thing to me is that the nuance of how people respond to and perceive cryptocurrency is less interesting to me because it's such a popular thing. It's such a
Oh, yeah.
fad, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
People will have an opinion without understanding a thing about it.
Right.
Whereas the thing that I find more interesting is what is people's opinions of central bank-backed currencies, right? And you ask people about that, and people rapidly just kind of start to like back off and like, oh well, blah 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 blah, right? Because like we don't really talk about it that much.
Yeah.
It's the cornerstone of our entire civilization, and yet we don't really talk about it. We don't seem to really understand what it means to have a central bank that makes the money. And I think it's important to talk about. I think it's important for people to understand. And I just don't think very many people do. But let's get back to the poker as JC here is going to make the call. Tillman's going to make the call. Tommy's going to make the call. And Josh here, the 4-better with a couple of kings, Gonna have to play this one multi-way in position.
How about a king 9-8 flop for some fun?
King 9-8 would be fun for someone named Josh.
Oh, okay. Well, not king 9-8, but
Nobody has 4s. I don't know.
I know.
What
I
happened.
don't know what's going on. Seems like it's just gonna go checks around.
Yeah,
that's
Josh-
a pretty fine check.
Josh will check behind. It's a
Seems
rainbow
like
flop.
Super fine check, and let's see if Tillman can catch his double gutter here. Huh?
Yeah, deuce or a 6.
That would be gross.
I don't suspect that Tillman is going to bet. JC is going to bet.
600.
I think this is fine. So 8s benefits a lot from fold equity. If
Yeah,
you can get
you're
ace
right.
queen to fold, ace jack to fold, things like that,
For
that's
sure.
actually really,
For
really
sure.
good for him.
Not gonna get kings to fold, but
He-
I agree with you that it definitely is a good. It's like a pretty reasonable spot for him to take a stab here with 8s, I think, right?
Josh is going to click him now, and JC will just run for the hills.
Don't love that.
I don't
feel
either.
like-
When you check
yeah,
back,
you
you
can
don't
just-
have any hands that aren't kings now.
Yeah. Now it's like, what do you have, right here? And it's
Josh
like,
is giving him the business. I think he's telling him what he has in order to try to reverse psychology him. I literally think that
JC's
Josh
face
just
is
told
so-
him I have kings.
JC's face is great, man. He's like looking at this guy like, who the fuck?
I
I
swear to
can't
God,
see-
I can't hear what Josh just said, but I swear to God, he just said, I got top set, you should just fold. Just trolling him. And oh my God,
Oh,
he got JC to
works.
call.
It works. This is incredible.
Whatever Josh
Oh
said to
my
him, JC
God.
didn't believe, and
Wow.
now here's a 7 of spades.
It's a pretty.
Backdoor diamonds totally bricks out. JC does lose to some sort of funky ass 7 that somehow played it this way, but I can't
know.
imagine it does.
It's gonna be like having played with Josh. Does he go with some just like troll sizing here?
JC
Just
has
for
not
max?
played with Josh, but Josh
No,
is
but-
talking to him as
Right.
well. That makes a huge
I
difference.
wonder what sizing he picks here.
I hope he bets 2K and no more.
I think he might go like pretty.
Oh, wait a minute. 7 pairs. He actually should go huge. Actually, he should go all in. I was going to say he should be targeting the 8s, 9s, 10s, but like I'm
Right.
seeing JC has 8s, but the 7 pair, that's the most likely card for him to have considering you have 2 kings in your hand. You
Right.
have to go huge
2K.
because he's got
Yeah,
7s.
gonna get a.
Or he could have a lot of 7s.
Huh.
Yeah.
But like for JC now, right? Like, I mean, you're just really not good here that much, right?
You're really not.
Yeah.
You're really not.
You just.
Josh is giving him the business some more. He's talking at him. I love this. I mean, it's
This is
amazing.
awesome. What a great hand. What a fun hand.
I can only imagine he's saying, dude, just fold. Just fold. Just trying to talk him into
Oh,
a
take the
call.
drink. He's so comfortable, you know?
Yeah.
I think JC is going to be able to put this one together. Because, like you said, in a 4-way, 3-bet pot, when it goes like multi-way like that, on King 7-4, like when Josh checks and then comes out with this sort of aggression, like, he's going to have kings so often here, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right, but the problem is that it's one hand. And it's always hard for us as
sure.
human beings, especially when we play this game a lot against tough opponents.
For sure.
You give them one effing hand, and it's 3 combos. You're like, no,
Yeah.
fuck you. You can't have it. You can't have
100%.
it. You got
100%.
diamonds.
Right.
You have diamonds,
Right.
and my 8s are good.
Right.
And you convince yourself. There's that little demon on the
Yeah.
shoulder that fucking talks to you,
Yeah.
tells you.
JC's like, ace, queen of diamonds makes a lot of sense here, right?
Of course.
And,
Of course.
oh, man. I'm really curious. man.
No,
This
he's
is
literally,
gross,
he's
man.
sitting there thinking, you have ace, queen of diamonds, you have ace, jack of diamonds. I hate this because you have kings, but
He's so
He doesn't wanna
reasonable.
fold.
He doesn't wanna fold. Ah. Yeah,
he's gonna
go
fold.
from the body language. I think. Yeah, he just hates it. He hates it so much.
I love this
Oh,
game.
good fold.
I love
I
this
mean, oh
game.
my God, that's so great. Good hand, Josh. That's great. I think you're right, though. I think the talking on the turn. I think JC normally would just fold to the min click, but Josh might have said something that got him in there.
Well, truly, the more often someone talks at me, the more likely I am to believe that they're bluffing. Yes, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Michael Tilton loves it. Thank you very much. Appreciate you. Jay Stevens with a hot take here. We need to start referring to it as crypto assets, as currency sounds threatening. Interesting. I hear what you're saying. I definitely do. Jerry Tucker here. I don't get it. How can these magical cryptos just pop up and make people instant millionaires? If someone is making money, someone else is losing money. That is an interesting take as well. That's sort of the zero-sum image. But that's not really true, right? Because if I buy a house from someone for $200,000 and then I sell it to someone else for $400,000, does that really mean that the person that bought it from me for $400,000 lost money? No. It means that I made the $200,000 that the person before me didn't. And the person that bought it from me is now inheriting and owning a $400,000 house, whether or not it's actually worth that. Doesn't actually mean that anyone lost money. It's all just relative, right? Everything's relative. Now, in the game of poker, poker is a zero-sum game because we all sat down with X number of dollars and then somebody wins and somebody loses. But when it comes to an asset that has a fixed price at 1 second, and then the next second it's a different fixed price, and then the next second it's a different fixed price, otherwise known as just a fluid price, right? Like it's not really clear who won and who lost at any given time. It's all just relative. So I don't know that I necessarily would agree with that, and I think that perhaps the perspective of it being a zero-sum game in the crypto space is not quite right. That's not to say that, you know, Elon, Doge, Musk, fucking coin, whatever, 2020 is, like, actually a valuable shit coin that you should be buying, because I see that stuff all the time. And people are trying to become overnight millionaires by creating some nonsensical meme coins. Anyways, Slicer has a dominated ace up against Tommy with the ace-6 of hearts. We're going to go heads up to a flop. And there is an ace with 2 hearts. And Tommy here is way out in front. However, Slicer does have 22% equity. A lot of the times these players are going to chop. The queen of clubs improves the chances of that occurrence a lot. Tommy going to check once again, and Slicer going to check behind. I think that is the wise move. 9 of diamonds here on the ends. Ensures the chop. And unless we go check, and then bet to push him off a chop. Yeah, this is more likely to be a value bet targeting a 7 or a queen. 150, almost full pot size bet. Tommy can't fold. We should just be hacking this up. I love this, though. Everybody in here has thoughts on...
Yeah, the chat is pretty interesting right now.
Yeah. Economics is not a zero-sum game, says Michael Tilton.
Can I break this, please?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
It
I
is
agree with
not.
that. Definitely not.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of the human experience, right? Is that economics is really just a language that we've developed to identify value. And it
Put
is
that on the poster.
expressly, definitively not a zero-sum game because we all, at the same time, will never define all of our assets as worth 0, right? And so, therefore, there is always going to be some fundamental tangible value that someone else is willing to address or willing to allocate to someone else's property. You have something that I might want, and I have something that you might want, and we're willing to do an exchange. I mean, there will never be 0 assigned values to those quantities, and we are going to dramatically like change our valuations on what things are worth. One day it's like, oh, that is worth this, and my this is worth that, and then it's going to be different the next day, and that's all fine and dandy. But at the end of the day, scarcity rules all.
Right.
As long as there is not infinite of something, we will assign a value to it, and it will be greater than 0. And
Yeah, I think
we will find a way to exchange it.
for sure. I think we're going to enter into a really interesting time in the next 10 to 15, actually probably 5 to 10 years, where like there's going to be this unprecedented amount of abundance, but it's going to be so controlled by a few people that it'll be really interesting to see sort of what happens with that. Because like you look at the like amount of wealth that some of the richest people in the world have accumulated, and I think it is like so absurd when you put it in terms of like how it's looked for all of time basically. And so we'll see what happens.
I don't
gonna be
know. I'm
interesting.
interested to pull on that thread a little bit more, but let's go ahead and get through this hand as we have about a 200 here from Tillman with the
just
top
gonna take
set,
it down with aces,
and he's going to win.
and life is good, man.
Life is good.
Life is good.
Okay, so let me get back to that. You said unprecedented in terms of
I've had so many hands.
maybe you can rephrase it for me. Let me ask you this question: do you think that the overall distribution of wealth across the world has like shifted more towards the wealthiest or more towards the
Definitely towards
poorest?
the wealthiest. And
That's interesting.
And at least
That's
in the United States.
That's interesting.
I mean, I think it's like pretty clear cut. Like the-
Historically, though, you mean like over the long term or just recently?
Like if you look at the difference between like CEO pay versus average worker pay, it's like I think between now and like 1940, it's like 22 times greater, like the disparity.
yeah, but perhaps that's not the correct lens to look at things,
No,
right?
for sure. But like, I think if you look at like the median versus if you look, I don't know what metric you want to use to look at it, right?
Well,
But-
so everybody has a different perspective. Let me ask you this, which I think may just frame things in the way that will make it a little bit more tangible. If you look at the average person in the lowest economic bracket, so let's like shift all the way down to the lowest bracket. We're recognizing that we're excluding the people that are above that.
For sure.
And then look at the average person in that bracket, and let's say that it's the lowest 30%. What is their quality of life in the United States versus 200 years ago, 100 years ago, 50 years ago, right?
Right. I think that it's
Josh here with just Jack High just has to fold.
like
does have a gutter,
everybody's quality of life has improved because how much like technology has improved, right? In
Yep.
the last, but like I think like versus how like if you compare it to somebody who lives in the top 10%, right? So let's say you take quality of life for somebody in the top 10% now versus quality of life for somebody in the bottom 10% right now, and you go back 100 to 200 years, like the difference between them has increased. If you look at it versus on a like a purely like comparative, right? Like you can't. I don't think you can look at it purely like a like objective, like are they doing better now than they were 100 years ago? Because like obviously yes, because now everybody has an iPhone, right? And that makes your life just like better, right?
Yeah,
I
but
think. Go ahead.
well, no, you can finish if you have more to say about that.
I was just gonna like. I think that like the real problem arises when like you get to the point where like the median is just like paycheck to paycheck, struggling. Like life is hard and not that great, and like
all you're thinking about is like, can I afford my next whatever? Can I afford my next car payment, rent, et cetera, right?
Sure.
And like you look at the median American right now, like can't afford. I think it's like a $500 unexpected bill, right? And
Sure.
I think that like will rear its ugly head at some point.
Oh, absolutely.
But like,
I think
But,
so.
like, life
So
has
there's a
gotten
couple of
better.
different things that can be said, right? Like one is we can talk about the general status of human beings in different socioeconomic structures around the world.
for sure.
And you can look at like ours, which is fueled by debt, right? Like all of the central bank dominated first world nations, whatever, like things are dominated by debt. And therefore, people are living paycheck to paycheck because they are living off of the debt that they've accumulated, right? You wouldn't go into Namibia and be like, show me your 70-inch TV, your $35,000 car, your house that costs $500,000, right? Like all of these things, right? Like
Sure.
they don't decide to buy those things because like they exist. You could go to that country and you could buy those things. But the average person can't afford them because they don't have access to the credit
Right.
to purchase those things. So we
Sure.
do here.
Sure.
And that's something to be said for the quality of life as well. I mean, people are living above their means. Therefore, they're living paycheck to paycheck in order to make those things happen. But anyways, we're getting a little bit off into the rabbit hole weeds and things, but I guess the main thing that I would say is that the difference between the people at the bottom, the people at the top 1,000 years ago was not that stark in terms of life expectancy.
Right. Well, I think just
Be-
in terms of like your day-to-day life, right? 1,000 years ago, right? The people at the top versus the people at the bottom. Like your day-to-day life is like mostly similar, I would imagine. Maybe not, but like not as starkly different as it is today.
I think that's actually exactly the opposite.
Really?
The aristocracy, the people at the top back in 1,000 years ago, I mean they ruled just with an iron fist, right? And the peasants were out in the fields, scrapping away in the mud, trying to just eke out an existence. But like the royals would live to 55 and die of dysentery. The people scrapping it out in the muck would die of dysentery at 40, right?
Right.
Or like
Okay.
there wasn't that big of a difference just because they didn't have the ability to get out of that and to defeat those sorts of problems. But the dramatic difference in how they lived their lives was massive. Nowadays, the person that is living paycheck to paycheck and whatever, like if they have a job where they have health insurance and whatever, like they can have a kidney transplant, right? A peasant was never getting that. Never. Not in a million years. And the royal didn't even have, technology didn't even exist for them to get a kidney
Sure, for
transplant.
sure.
So like the things have just changed so much. I don't know if I'm making my point clear or if there's anything to really go on here. Josh is trying to play the Pragmatic with the 4 deuce. Actually has the best hand here with the pair of 4s and the gutter. Big Daddy Chaz is the better,
Look at him,
though.
he's eyeing up his stack. How much you got, Big Daddy?
Yeah, Josh
All
bet
right,
the
all right.
flop, checked the turn, and is now looking at making a call here. Does make the call.
He says, I don't believe you.
Big Daddy Chaz has not won many hands or even played many hands tonight. See if he does improve on this river. It's a
Nope.
9 of hearts, and the pair of 4s would be best if we make it to showdown. Josh will check it over, and Chaz has no options but to bet, and presumably bet quite large. Needs to represent a flush, and a flush will bet over the pot. Here
Wow.
we go.
About pot?
Nah, this is a little less than pot. Okay. Not quite going to give him the full
9.50.
business.
This would be so sick.
Yeah, he got you. That's true. He got you good. It's only because they've been on him 5 times.
I don't know
So
how
what is Chaz?
you can call with a 4 deuce here. I mean, Josh doesn't have a club. He doesn't have a 5. You need a 5 or a club. Really. He's going to show him the 4
No reaction.
and try to get a read off of Big Daddy Chaz. Now, Josh hasn't played with Big Daddy Chaz, I can't imagine. But he is going to look him up. He's going to turn the 4 over, and he's going to eye him up, and Chaz is going to sit back. Oh, he looks at him and gives him the smile.
Smile.
He gives him the smile.
Oh my God! Please call. This
If
would be
Josh
so sick.
choose
Please find
through.
the call. This would be so sick.
If Josh chews through the Big Daddy
Oh my
Chaz
God.
defense layer, Chaz is ready.
Wow, this is so sick because like, oh, if it just weren't like if the ace weren't on the board, right? Maybe he fine, but I don't know. I just don't think he can, because like Chaz could. This is so sick. This would be such a cool call.
All right, let's back up a minute. What are Big Daddy Chaz's bluffs? He has naked 5s that have bricked out. He has a naked king of clubs that has bricked out. And he's got a naked 7 of clubs that has bricked out.
Oh,
amongst many other things. Show it to him.
Chaz gets
You
it.
got to show it to him.
Show the bluff. He's so.
Oh,
He
he won't do it.
he's too much of a pro, man. Oh, that was a
That
great.
was sick, though. I love
Wow,
that.
he was really
Love
thinking
that.
about it. But yeah, a little suicidal to call with that, but that would have been awesome.
Mo the cat here, all caps. Boy, are you wrong. Royals live to 50, peasants live to 30 and 25. All right, I apologize for having completely wrecked that whole whatever conversation. Oh my God,
Yeah,
I just
nice
love it.
play from Chaz.
I don't know. Everything's just so crazy. It's so hard to identify exactly what's going on in the world. But I think the main thing that I take away from it is that we are indeed headed for a little bit of a different time than we've grown up with. Probably me more so than you, as you are younger than I. So you've seen the writing on the wall since you were much younger.
Maybe that's
Whereas,
the case, yeah.
like, I grew up during the 80s, the 90s, the early 2000s, right? Whereas, like, times were good. Times were just good.
Yeah.
And, like, we had just, like, I was born after the inflationary crisis in the 70s and everything. Like, we were good again, you know? And people felt that. And I grew up during that. And it was just, it felt like things were okay.
Yeah.
And now
And I
you're
still
being
think,
sort
like,
of
yeah.
inculcated with the crises. Like 2008 hit when you were, what, in your teens, right?
Yeah, I was 14 in 2008.
Yeah. I mean, that was a big deal, right?
Right.
And,
For sure.
And that hit people in a different way.
Right.
And
But I still think things are like better than they've ever been before, right? Because like technology is increasing at such an increasing rate, right? That it definitely like just objectively makes everybody's life better, right? Because when you have access to like all of these amazing things,
Yeah.
it just makes your life a little bit easier, right?
yeah,
Like,
JC
have-
here gonna flop top
like
and bottom.
my
and
iPhone
wins.
is amazing, right?
Yeah.
It's truly incredible, right? It
Sure.
lets me do so many things that like I wouldn't be able to do 20 years ago, right?
Yeah.
But it also allows there to be companies like Amazon and Apple where like they just are able to generate so much wealth, right?
By
Because of the
doing
fact that,
amazing
like,
things for
They
us.
do, yeah, definitely amazing things, right? But
Yeah.
it just means like the people at the head of these companies and things like just have so much control, right? Big as like in 10 years, right? Like who's gonna, like who's really gonna control everything, right?
Well,
And
so
like, is it because it,
we can be blinded by our perspective in the moment. We are human beings, and we generally tend to see the things that are very immediate. And I think it's very
Yeah,
important to
100%.
recognize that what has come before us has set the tone for what is here today, and it also behooves us to pay attention to failures of the past and not forget that what seems to be insurmountable right now is not so. Sears Roebuck used to be one of the most important and powerful companies in the entire United States and indeed around the developed world. If you wanted something, you ordered it from Sears, and anybody that would have told you that Sears was going to be bankrupt and basically non-existent 50 years ago
Right.
would have laughed you out of the building.
Right.
So to
Right.
think
Yeah,
that
100%.
Amazon or Tesla or Walmart or any of these things are just stuck forever, going to be our lords and masters into the future, is not necessarily true. There's
You're right.
also something to be said for what allows these businesses to retain their place at the top and ask real questions about what our system enables and how it all functions. Right? Like I'm not necessarily criticizing or targeting anybody. I'm just saying we should be curious. We should ask questions. We should try to understand what it is that makes up our system as it is, and understand what it is that could make our system fail. Because at the end of the day, the mistakes that we as individuals can make, especially at this table playing this game, right? We as a group, as a population, as a race can make mistakes trying to allocate resources and make decisions on grand scales about how to do things. And when those mistakes are inevitably made, the people that foresee them, the people that understand the human nature and the things that lead to those, stand to make a lot of money and or at least insulate themselves from the destruction that others might suffer. So
Right.
it all
sure,
just
for
makes
sure.
sense for us to think about things.
Yeah, for sure.
Josh here
Yeah.
gonna just call with a couple of jacks. We're gonna call them Josh's for this hand.
I wonder if he's doing that with the intention of back raising, but we'll see.
Well, absolutely going to work because JC is going to squeeze from the big blind, and Josh is going to give him the business. 350 to go with pocket Josh's. And JC
Oh, man.
here, who's already seen a hand go down between Josh and
Yeah.
Big Daddy Chaz just moments
This
ago.
is like a spot.
JC
right?
also played a hand against Josh,
Right.
and he's going to call.
Oh
Look at
my
this
god,
flop.
what a flop.
This could be the hand of the
Wow.
night here. JC has superior equity with ace high up against Josh and pocket Josh's. JC should be checking and probably raising after Josh c-bets here. 500, one pink chip to go. 7.8K the effective stack to start this hand. It is 400 actually. And JC, look at, no, he's got the full
Oh, he's
chipmunk grin on now. He
grinning.
says,
he's like, I love my
I want
life.
all of your
Let's
chips.
go.
I want them all.
Let's get it in right now. So, this is just snap. I mean, what do you think? We're raising here to 14?
I think 14 is a good number.
Trying to...
I think maybe 12, 1250 is just like a little
Sure.
bit more standard. I think 14 is
Right.
definitely reasonable.
Yeah. I feel like as JC, they're deep enough where you're just like, how do I figure out a way to get all of the money into this pot, right? There it is.
Oh, no, he's going to give him
huge.
like the 18 Hondies.
Huge. Oh, man. So now as Josh, like,
If I thought Josh was a little bit more faint of heart, I would say that he would just fold here and be like,
whatever.
I have profit, a lot of profit,
Right.
and I don't need to go fucking around
He
here. But
snap
Josh
calls.
is not that
He
guy.
absolutely, he doesn't even think about it for that long.
Josh is not that guy. He is going to
4.3
call.
SPR, like, one and a
1.5,
something.
just under
Yeah.
1.4. King of Hearts here on the
Oh.
turn. No change in equity. At least improvement for JC. Doesn't pick up anything
Right.
extra is what I
And-
mean to say.
Honestly, like, for Josh, that's a pretty good card, right? Because,
Queen Jack is most likely just going to go for a check call
right,
with two
and he's
overs.
double blocking and, like, White King, like, he's more likely to have not flushing versus
I think,
shove.
JC's just going to go all
Shoves?
in. Yeah, no, I think that's
Oh
I think that's
my
his only
God.
play here.
Oh my goodness.
And I think that's why he went for the larger
yeah,
sizing
I
with
think
the 1.8.
you're right for sure. And now this is like, wow, this is so sick. Because like, how can you fold jacks here?
Josh is already telling him one time.
Yeah.
I think he's like, we're going to run it one time.
Easy now, but at the same time, I mean,
I mean, how can you? I don't know. Can't really fold jacks here, can you?
No.
right? Like, not really.
You'd actually probably rather not have the jack of diamonds, but
Sure.
really, I don't think queen jack of diamonds.
Why is it shoving the turn? Right? Are you gonna shove? You're not gonna shove queen jack and diamond.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, like you block the shit out of queen jack.
Yeah.
Like queen jack is just completely out of the
I
question.
mean, even for Josh, like he's thinking like if I'm behind, I have 6 outs, I guess, right? I mean, not like super great, but like how often is he behind? Like, is JC really gonna just shove some weird king X here? Probably not, unless it's like king 9 of diamonds specifically, right?
Josh was gonna call this. Josh,
Yeah, I think he is.
Josh is a fucking maniac.
Oh, this is crazy! What a hand! Oh my goodness! He's just not gonna fold it, really.
Good thing I got your address here. Real risky play.
Oh man, this is such a sick spot.
If Josh does fold, I'll be a little bit disappointed because the king of hearts is not a hand, not a card
Right.
that is actually
That's what I'm saying. It
dangerous
doesn't
for him.
help him. It doesn't help JC at all. So he only loses to like. I don't know.
All we know is an emotional
9-10. Like I'm trying to think of the hands in JC's range.
Yeah, but the 9-10s are like 9-10 of spades and 9-10 of hearts.
Right. So that's like you just lose to so few combos of hands here, right?
Yeah, there's like 2
Yeah.
combos there. Pocket 9s, pocket 10s, pocket 6s.
Yeah. And just like so many.
And you're live against those.
Did he call?
Oh, he's tipping. He's pre-tipping the dealer.
Oh, JC's smile is gone.
Yeah, JC
He
is
is
now
no longer smiling.
Well, so this is the problem with this combo draw type thing, where like, and I've felt this so many times and I've witnessed it so many times, on the flop, you are pump fisting. You
Yeah.
are ready. You're like,
Yeah.
combo draw,
Let's
let's go.
do it.
And then you brick the turn and you're like, ah, I just wanted to hit it there.
Yeah, it's like I don't like it.
I just wanted to hit it there and then I'd just be good. But now I'm down to one
yeah,
card.
Yeah. And you're like, ah, like
Now
if
I
we
really
get
want
it
him to
in,
fold.
if we get it on the flop, I like it a lot, right? With the
Yeah.
combo draw, and then now you're like, oh man.
Now I really want you to fold. And Josh is deep in the tank here, and at some point here in the not too distant future, he is going to come up against the time limit of the live stream delay, and he will be forced to make a decision. Josh probably with just about a couple of minutes here left in the tank before he will be obligated by the floor staff to make a decision. Let's find out what he does. He still seems loose and fresh, though. I mean, I still
Hey,
want to
still.
believe that Josh is going to find the call here, but I can't quite decide. He's waffling. He's going to make it. He
calls.
says fuck it out loud, makes the call.
He calls.
One time for all the cookies.
Wow.
Pocket
This is
Josh
so
is
sick.
up against the combo draw. It's a diamond on the end. 9 of diamonds. 9 of diamonds, and Josh is going to get felted. Oh, my God. No. JC gets there. The hot run of
Wow.
JC continues.
Wow.
16
16.3K pot. Oh, that's so sick. You got it in so right. You're so right there. Oh, man.
Great call by Josh. Does make the correct call. Does
That's so
get
sick.
unlucky on the run out. One out, or
Wow.
one run out for JC is all I needed. Got there. One and
That
done.
Is crazy.
Oof. What a hand. What a hand. Brian Shelton, thank you very much for subscribing.
Oh
Welcome
my
to the team.
goodness, that is disgusting.
Hope you guys all just enjoyed that one. My
Poor Josh,
goodness.
man.
Wow.
Oh,
Will Lottie here saying much easier call without the Jack of Diamonds. I just don't know how many Jack of Diamonds combos are
Right.
that relevant to the hand. We sort of talked about it. It's
Right.
like the Queen Jack of Diamonds doesn't necessarily want to rip it, right? Like the Jack of Diamonds with anything else. I don't know. I guess like King Jack of Diamonds is maybe still just like a rip because it's like a merge. But yeah, I don't know that the Jack of Diamonds is really that relevant. I think it's more that the King doesn't do anything for you.
Right.
Therefore, the Jacks were the correct call.
Oh,
Does make
man.
it, gets unlucky. Unfortunate run out there for Josh. Does pick up and move on from the table. JC,
Oh,
the
man.
recipient of another gigantic pot.
Wow, that was crazy. What a hand. What a great call, and then what a brutal move.
Wow.
I mean, this is the thing about poker, right? That just makes you question, like, you make the right decisions, and then you just get punished, and you're like, was that the right decision? Like, was I really supposed to call there, right?
Yep.
And it's just like sometimes you make the right, you do everything right, and you lose, right?
Yep.
And that's what makes poker so great and infuriating and everything horrible at the same time, right?
Yeah. Yeah, because the poker solver robot universe, little god of poker, would look at that spot and be like, if you run this out an infinite number of times, you will profit a lot of money.
Right.
Because JC went all in, which was an overbet to the pot,
Right.
with 37% equity, or I don't remember what it was. I think it was 37. And so for Josh to call off means that he is clearly benefiting.
Right.
Like he is clearly in the black.
Right.
If you run it a million times, but guess what? We run it one time,
Right.
and homie hits the 9 of diamonds, and you're just dead, and you lose all the money.
And you lose it all. And that's like,
You don't get another chance.
right. Right.
And when is the next time you're going to run into this fucking spot?
Exactly, right?
As Josh, right? Like he doesn't play this game that often, and he's certainly not going to run into a spot with a freaking 16K pot
yeah. Where,
very
yeah.
often where
Oh,
he's going to
man.
get it back.
Yeah. That's horrible.
So that's really
It's
rough.
horrible,
It's
yeah.
really rough. And, you know, shout out to Josh. Great player, great guy. Just a tough spot
That
there.
is absolutely brutal. I mean, just a spot where,
There's just nothing to do.
yeah. absolutely
AJ here
nothing
going to
you can do
flop
about it.
top 2. Pierre, top pair, bottom kicker. Doesn't want to find a deuce on the turn. Doesn't. Finds a king of spades. Is going to check now, and AJ should start betting for value. And I think a large sizing is in order. Should go for 150, 125, thereabouts. Okay. Pierre can't go check folding the top pair just yet. Does make the call. No heart here on the end. We'll get AJ paid a little bit more, I dare say. Queen of clubs increases the chances of Pierre chopping. Quick bet from AJ. And Pierre, you can already see the tongue out of the side of the mouth.
Not loving it. He's really not loving it.
Yeah, it's kind of like ace, jack, ace 10 beat him.
Yeah.
All the other aces he chops with, ace 5 he loses to, and he's going to get away from
But
it.
it's a good fold.
Yeah, I like that. Maybe just a little bit too quick of a bet there from AJ. It's
Yeah.
almost like if you had bricked out hearts, wouldn't you kind of like
Think
look
about
at
it,
it and be
right.
like, what the fuck am I going to do here?
Yeah,
I guess bet 275, not
Right.
just like snap bet 275.
Right. It's somewhere where, like, the live aspect of it definitely comes into play. Like, making sure that you try and do generally the same thing with your timing is pretty important, I think.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, and
man.
that one's curious though. Do you pay a lot of attention to that? Is that something that you put high up in the hierarchy of your decision making? Is how quickly your opponent makes a decision?
No.
It's sort of like fringe cases, right? Where they snap, do something, or they tank way long, right?
I think for me, it's like I mostly try and play based on like what I think the right like
Whenever, like when the money's mattered to me,
I don't know, theoretical play is.
What
I guess.
would Jesus do?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yep.
It's like if I was gonna play the strategy that I think is the best, what would I do here?
Yeah.
And then if it's close, like if there's something that'll push me one way or the other, like my opponent like jumps out of their seat on the river and is like, you know, clearly super excited and then it's like jams, then it's like, okay, I can, you know, take that into account. But
and the kid played 5-10.
I don't know. I think for the most part there are some like pretty reliable live tells, but I don't try and read too much into them because I think you just end up like leveling yourself a little too much and it makes it a little bit stressful when you do that.
Yeah. One thing that I've found, like one particular instance that I've found the most sort of like if you try to just pick one thing and say, oh, when they do this, it means this, and I always respond with this, that can totally screw you up, is usually this comes up in tournament poker, but it's usually like an older gentleman or whatever. You're on the turn. They make some sort of bet. The pot's already large. Stack pot ratio is getting pretty low. You make the call, and before the turn comes out, they either like announce check or announce all in before the card comes out, right? And like you can level yourself into they're always on the flush draw / straight draw, and they're just gonna go for it no matter what. Or they're always on top set and just gonna like they're not gonna let a scare card deter them, right? But it's so binary and it totally different things, right? And so if you decide that it's one thing and always that, then like you can just always be wrong.
Right.
But there are other things like the timing tells of people that do make the turn bet, you make the call. The dealer is like flipping over the river card and they're already betting.
Right.
That to me does tend to say a little bit more about the
for
fact
sure.
that they have the draw instead of the made hand. The made hand would wait to see, wait, does that change everything?
Right.
Whereas the draw is like, I either got it or I'm going to bluff it, you know?
Yeah.
So like those sorts of things can play in a little bit more. But other ones are very ambiguous.
Right. I think it's also like sometimes player dependent and stuff, and so you just end up leveling yourself into like spots where you don't necessarily want to be thinking like, does this person have this tell, do they have this tell, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then like generally like if you're playing a winning strategy, like who cares what people are doing as tells, you'll win either way, right? And so it's
True. Yeah.
and I'm sure like you can definitely increase your win rate if you're like good at that stuff, but just like I know some people who give like way too much emphasis to that stuff, I think, and that I think can be a mistake a lot of the time because like a lot of the times you just like don't know what people are really doing, right? And when you try and be like, all right, this tell works for this person and this person did the same thing, like a lot of times they can be doing something different or whatever.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Yeah, thank you. I agree with you. However, oh, actually, sorry. So I agree with you to a certain extent. I mean, I guess I agree with you full-heartedly. But the other side of that is the people that are like, you'll never be able to figure it out, and if you try to even figure it out, then you'll just like convince yourself the wrong thing. I think there are way too many situations in live poker where a tell is super valuable.
No, I agree.
That if
yeah,
you
for sure.
are like, I just play GTO and I don't care what they do. Oh my God, like you're throwing away shit. And I have seen the GTO players ignore the live tells specifically because they're like, what this guy's doing right now is I'm going to purposefully wall it off, not pay attention to it because whatever they're doing could be the wrong information. And like, to me, I'm like, this dude is telling you exactly what's going on. We got a hand. Let's talk about the hand. Pierre here, 3-betting the king 9, getting a little spicy
a
out
little
of it.
light, and Chaz with the 4-bet. And then now Lexo in this spot.
Well, this is actually perfect. We ran into this situation earlier, which was we had hijack cutoff button. Now we've got button, small blind, straddle. And actually, I love these dynamics because the ranges are the widest. Lexo on the button, going to have a really wide range. Is facing a 3-bet and a 4, and he's going to let it go in that. That is not...
Oh my God, he folded queens on the button?
Okay, so before we go too off the rails on that, let's talk about the issues with it. So, button versus the blinds is always going to be a battle of whose range is wider and do I want to play my wide range against you as a flat or as a raise. And oftentimes the blinds and the straddles, we'll call them all blinds for the purposes of this conversation, are incentivized to raise because they're going to have a ton of weak hands, right?
Right.
And
you have to play the hand out of position.
you don't want to play out of position.
Right.
So you can raise with your best hands and with your weakest hands and play this polarized strategy against a guy who is just also gonna have a really wide range. And then you force him on the button to decide, does he want to call with his wide range and play it in position, or does he want to fold his worst shit or raise his worst shit, right? Along with his best hands. And so you play this little metagame against each other with the two widest ranges that are possible, and you end up in these sorts of scenarios, and Lex seeing a 3-bet and a 4-bet in front of him. Most of the time, a 3-bet and a 4-bet in front of you is very dangerous. That is a pretty narrow range, and that's going to be a tough, strong range, and queens is going to be good against it, but it's not going to be great against it.
Right.
But that's usually when we're talking about other positions.
Right.
Early middle position open, somebody in the cutoff or hijack raising, and then a 4-bet from the blinds or something, right? But no, this is button, small blind, straddle. Queens are massively defeating that range. Massively defeating that range. Queens cannot be a fold.
Right.
And obviously, if Lexo goes back and watches this, I mean, I hope this is just a learning opportunity to recognize that the positional play, especially in a game like this with these players, right? That was Big Daddy Chaz from the straddle, putting in that 4-bet. That's a big deal. And that was Pierre in the small blind. It was, I mean, it's Pierre.
It's a spot where, like, maybe he doesn't recognize that, like, how capable Chaz and Pierre are as, you know, as we are, because we've seen them play so much. And so, like, as Lexo, if you come from, I know he's from, plays in Florida, plays, like, relatively high stakes in Florida, but in, like, maybe in Florida, like, you just don't see 4-bet bluffs ever, and so he decides, like, okay, it's aces, kings, or ace-king, and I'm doing really poorly against that, and so I'm going to fold my queens here. But, like, I mean, I guess I'm just trying to, like, justify that play a little bit, but, like you said, I think against the ranges and that.
Well, yes, and here's the thing. We don't have to justify as much as try to understand what the player's thinking.
Right.
Because
I mean, I think that's exactly what he's thinking, right? He's just like, nobody 4-bets, right? Without aces, kings, or ace-king.
I think it's that and the fact that he got felted earlier. I mean,
for sure that's true.
We are creatures of experience.
Oh, man. Lexo is really just, this is kind of gross.
Yeah, this is exactly what he was trying to avoid.
Right. No, but
just last hand.
I think you're 100% right there, right? Like, he just, you know, in his head, everything isn't.
He's checking back here. See, he's gun shy.
Oh my God!
And he is just getting completely owned.
Yeah, this is horrible. I mean, but like you said again, like, queens is just it's just a spot where it's like, okay, if it's kings versus queens or aces versus queens, like, I lose, right? And there's just spots in poker that you just have to embrace, where it's just like, all right, I lose.
Now here, the really telling thing here is whether or not Lexo raises, which would be the appropriate play, but he is just going to call. Yeah, he's just going to call. Yeah, Lexo is.
I think this is just a little too, like, like.
No, but he's been up against it. He feels like he's up against it.
Yeah.
The emotions are getting to him.
Yeah,
and the cards are honestly playing out. Aside from the last hand, they're playing out, and he's going to rack up.
He's going to call it night.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very mature thing to do.
Yeah, it's very understandable.
Because I think he recognizes that, like, hey, I'm not playing my best right now. And this is something that I think a lot of people could learn a lesson from. It's just like, when it's not your night, it's not your night. And you just can leave and find another day, right? And I
Absolutely.
think sometimes, like, you recognize that, like, things are not going really well for me, and I'm just going to call it right now. And, you know, I'm going to come back. I'll be able to play. You know, poker is always going to be there. And so you want to always be playing your best. And clearly he felt like it. Just he was just frustrated running into it. He didn't want to tilt. And so.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, the game is really just sort of set up against you when things like this happen. King on the turn when you have ace-king and your opponent has aces.
It's just so
and then a queen, running queens when your opponent has flopped a set.
Yeah.
And then you just check call, right? Like or you just check in position and then call in position.